How many did you save?
Just like a dream.
You did the only thing you could do. And you lost.
Like a dream.
Look, we're still in this thing.
The day you walked away.
But we have no idea what we're dealing with.
Unfortunately.
Things are getting worse around here, aren't they?
Boyd, we're out of food.
Too many things are changing. I have to remember.
Remember what?
What's missing?
Nothing that I've been through is possible.
I think you're here for what's in the basement.
This place will not break us. We can still win. But the only way we go home is together.
Hello. Hit the mark. Go. The game here is rigged. Why can't they leave us alone?
No matter what this place throws at us, we're gonna find our way home.
Everybody just talks about how afraid they are of dying. Well, I don't think that's the worst thing that can happen to you here.
Hello?
Like a dream.
You looking for these?
Into my life.
You can't save them all.
But things are really how they used
Hey, be really quiet.
Christy has an ultrasound machine. Wait, what? It was on the ambulance that came into town.
So you really think this is gonna tell you anything? I don't think anything's here by accident. You really want to beat this place? Sober up.
Is someone upstairs? No. Oh my god. No.
We have to go.
You know, Victor, if you keep coming down here, one of these days, we'll make you stay.
Go! Go, go, go!
Welcome all to a live discussion for episode 6, Scar Tissue. And that scene right there was probably one of my favorite ones from the episode. Just seeing that creepy monster down there in the pitch dark. I swear, these things are even creepier when they're in human form, I feel. Just telling Victor in this creepy manner, keep coming down here, Victor. We might make you stay. Awesome stuff. This was a mixed episode, I feel. Had some really good episodes. I mean, some really good scenes that I really did enjoy. Overall, probably wasn't my favorite episode of the season. I could confidently say that. We get some interesting reveals, and some of the reveals only lead to some more questions, which is kind of part of the course for From. But there were some really, really good scenes and some really good character development moments in this episode that I really did enjoy. And yeah, had a little bit of everything in terms of reveals, new questions, and asking some of the more philosophical questions as to what Fromville is, the very nature of Fromville, the natural order of this place. I did really enjoy those scenes. Of course, the cameo of Dead Tom returning, the bartender. Really, it was awesome to see him again. That was probably one of my favorite scenes of the episode, actually, just watching him and Jade kind of discuss the natural order of Fromville. But overall, a decent episode. Definitely not my favorite, but definitely not my least favorite. So
great episode. Great episode.
Rob loved it.
Placeholder episode.
Contrarian Rob.
No, yeah, I disagree. This was, I mean, maybe arguably necessary episode, but not. It didn't do much.
Setup episode.
The best episode since 1 and 2 of this season.
And it was one of the, well, we all know that everything that we predicted in terms of the pregnancy is exactly what it was. So it's like, oh, they didn't really surprise anyone, with
I was surprised at
And
the number of people who knew it was going to be nothing, because I thought everybody was saying, oh, it's going to be a demon, oh, it's going to be this, it's going to be something shocking. And then suddenly when they did it, it's like, oh no, I knew it was going to be nothing. Like, really? I don't remember that. Let's roll the tape. Let's roll the tape on that. I don't know.
Can you guys remind me why she thought she was pregnant in the first place? I can't remember.
Well, because Christy, she, I don't know why Fatima originally thought she was pregnant. I don't know, maybe if her period stopped or anything, but she comes to Christy asking for a pregnancy test. And whatever test Christy did on Fatima gave her the information that she was pregnant. But it clearly seems like that was not the case. Yeah. It was again, was it a big just red herring? Is something happening to Fatima herself? Is maybe she undergoing some kind of weird change? And there's some people who think that maybe she actually really is still pregnant, that maybe the ultrasound just couldn't read what was inside of her because it was some weird supernatural Fromville shit going on. I don't know. I mean, it's looking like, again, you see the ultrasound, it looked pretty definitive that there was nothing growing inside of her. So if that's the case, what exactly is happening to Fatima? What is going on with her if she's not pregnant, I guess is the question.
The acting in this episode was fantastic. The writing was fantastic. The dialogue was fantastic. You're all wrong.
Robert, you're just trying to say everything is awesome because last week you said everything was crap.
No comment, Mike.
Well, Rob's got a hold of that everlasting gobstopper weed that Julie has.
I know, right?
She smoked up
it's like in a John Wick movie, just unlimited bullets. Now it's unlimited weed,
unlimited cannabis coming from Fromville. Yes.
Jeremy would move there if that was the case.
I'd never leave. Yeah, shit. But then again, I kind of live in a constant state of that anyway, so that wouldn't even be much of a change for me. But no, I enjoyed it. Like I said, it definitely wasn't my favorite episode of the season, but I did enjoy it. There were some really good scenes, and like you said, Rob, there were some really good moments of some just good quality writing and some good character moments. Like I really enjoyed some of the Victor and Henry scenes. Them going down to the caves was pretty interesting. It was kind of was as expected, I feel. But I feel like the real good scene between Victor and Henry came after the caves when they were in the peach truck, where Henry is kind of sitting down and he's really for the first time just seeing how damaged and how traumatized Victor really is. And he's looking at him like he's got two heads, or he's, acting like this toy is going to come to life, where, in Henry's perspective, he probably just comes off crazy. Victor and us as the audience, we know that there's a little bit more to it. We know there's things that are possible here in Fromville that aren't possible in the real world. But for Henry, he doesn't know much about this place yet. So all he's seeing is his potential son just incredibly traumatized and damaged for being stuck here for so alone, to the point where he thinks this doll is going to come alive. So I really enjoyed that scene there.
Yeah, that was a cool one. And what it was, and we're thinking, our instincts as viewers is like, you just arrived in a world where you saw monsters come out at night and slash people to death and this, that, and the other. So how can you think that anything is unbelievable or whatever? But Henry's in a position, I think if you put yourself in his position, whenever we see something incredible, even if it's something physically possible, but just that we haven't seen before, haven't experienced before, we kind of like raise the bar to like, so that's the maximum. We raise the when we see stuff that's impossible, you set what you've seen as the upper limit of what you think is possible. And I think with Victor talking about Jasper like it's going to come to life, that even exceeded Henry's new limits of what he thought was beyond belief.
It's not like anything goes here. It's not like people fly around and lift up houses with their bare hands or anything. There is still some kind of seeming reality rules to the place. But he doesn't know what that line is yet. He just got there.
I think everybody's rules are like their upper limit is
everyone
really
has a different experience.
Yeah.
And like some people see visions, some people they don't even, you presume that they're staying up in Colony House, they might not ever see the monsters,
Yeah.
Can we?
And again, it is a matter of perspective, I would imagine too. Like you said, the personal experiences really kind of shape your understanding as to what is even possible in this place. Like someone like Boyd and Jade and Victor, those kind of characters they're kind of know that almost anything is possible here. But like you said, some of the other characters that are kind of just isolated in the town or isolated in Colony House, who maybe only see the monsters once in a great while and haven't seen any of the other kind of weird other shit here. Yeah, I mean, I imagine there's still things here that can even surprise people, even when you do see these flesh, searing into these freaking flesh eating, or remains to be seen whether or not they're eating any of these flesh. I know that's up for debate. But, seeing these monsters is one thing, but for Henry, seeing that this doll is going to come alive like Chucky, that's just, I think even that is just completely beyond his comprehension, because again, he's still very new to this place too. He's only been here for what, 2 days, 3 days, if that. So I did like the scene, and you can see just the worry and the concern on Henry's face, just knowing like, oh man, you were here, you hid in this truck.
I tell you,
as
a parent, you feel that just deeply, like you can't imagine a situation where, when your child is in this horrible place and there was nothing you could do about it, you didn't even know they were there, and you just start to imagine what they must have gone through. You can see that on his face. I think that was a really good scene too.
Yeah, when you said you were alone here all that time.
Yeah. All that time, 4+ decades of, imagine. I mean, like you said, you and Rob are both fathers. Can you imagine that, where all of a sudden you become apart from, one of your kids or both of your kids or whatever the case may be for 4, almost 5 decades, and all of a sudden you find them all these years later in this crazy nightmarish world. Like, I can only imagine what is going through Henry's mind, and Victor's as well. Like, Victor's been so used to being just this, and I mentioned this in my video, but Victor's been just so used to being this alone and closed off and just emotionally unavailable person for the last 40, 50 years, where I imagine it's going to be very hard for him to kind of open up himself to even Henry at that point, because he's just so used to being isolated.
Part of his character is to forget everything. That's why he draws, so that if he needs to, he can go back and remember. But I mean, his whole thing is just blocking out everything. So...
That's why the writing's so good, because Henry is obviously, he wants to spend as much time with Victor, but he's scared about how to do it, like how to talk to him, how to go about getting closer to him. It's just so accurate, man. It's so well done. Can we touch on Jasper for a second in the caves?
Yeah, let's touch on to all of that. But first, let us say what is up to the awesome chat and see who is in here on this fine Tuesday night evening. And again, big thank you to everybody for joining us tonight on this Tuesday Fromville hour, as we dive into all things episode 6, and maybe even a little sneak peek at episode 7 even. There's a pretty interesting trailer out there for episode 7 that looks pretty Elgen heavy next week. And I get the feeling we are going to have a massive character death in episode 7 as well, just based on the episode synopsis for episode 8. Looks like something big is going to happen in episode 7, where the aftermath of a tragedy is described in the episode 8 synopsis. So I think episode 7 is going to be when we're going to get that next big character death next week.
I hope it's Tabitha. I can't. I hated her this episode, man.
She's like caviar. Like, you could have it once or twice, but if you had to eat that 24/7, 365, you'd kill yourself. She's that irritating.
Damn.
Interesting. We got the Man in Black in here. The Fatima storyline dragged the entire episode. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of, dragging the whole episode just to see that one reveal that, that some people did kind of see coming. And, of course, MGM kind of spoiled it again this week, where the From Twitter account tweeted out a picture of the results of the ultrasound, the empty ultrasound, right there on social media hours before the episode even aired. So this has been becoming a theme with that social media account, where they're kind of spoiling some pretty big things for the episodes every once in a while, like the bracelets or the contents of the suitcase before the episode airs. Things that I think a lot of fans would rather not get spoiled on. I know some fans don't mind little spoilers like that, which is totally cool. But there are also a lot of fans who don't want to see those things. So I've had to kind of just completely resign myself to not even looking on social media on Saturday and Sunday, because that's usually when all the big spoilers are flowing around there. Miss Sarah, though, says Elizabeth. Welcome, Elizabeth. We got Scarlett in the house as well. Welcome, Scarlett. We got Wine and From. What is up, Wine and From? We got Don't Even Worry About It in the house. What is up? Don't Even Worry About It. We got Delsenia in the building, our resident awesome mod. Thank you so much for being here, Delsenia, as always. We got Miss Chris in the house. Fatima is feeding kimono woman. Yeah, there's a lot of theories going around as to whether or not this kimono creature is tied to Fatima. And this episode definitely started to refuel a lot of those theories just because where the kimono creature kind of popped up, of course, in the Fatima picture of all the pictures. I'm still not 100% sure if the kimono creature is tied to Fatima, but, you know, I understand why a lot of people might think it is. Got Elizabeth in the house. What is up, Elizabeth? Good to see you. We got Dizzy Guy in the house as well. What is up, Dizzy Guy Explores? Welcome, welcome. See, the Hollywood Pineapple is in the building. What is up, Hollywood Pineapple? PM in the house. What is up, PM? We got ENC. Has Elgen gone to sleep? Yeah, I mean, if not, he must be feeling about as beat as I am. But no, it looks like he's, you know, the thing with Elgen is, it looks like now he's not just seeing this kimono creature when he's asleep. He's actually seeing it while he's awake now as well. So it seems like he's not safe anywhere he goes. So I imagine he's probably starting to get a little bit more sleep than he was in the beginning of the season. But
he
yeah,
looks well rested compared to a few of those episodes. I mean, that might be the weed as well.
Still wearing that crow shirt, though. Still got that same crow shirt on.
He does have the same crow shirt. That's true. He hasn't changed it. He has not changed his crow shirt, and he's definitely having fun with that Polaroid camera there as well as we see later. But yeah, like you said, he looks a little bit better. I wouldn't be surprised if he's getting rest because again, I mean, with this thing appearing to him when he's awake and when he's asleep now, it seems like he doesn't have any safe haven. So I guess we'll see what's going to happen with him. We got Xavier in the house. What is up, Xavier? Good to see you. Don't do it, Elgen. You're going to release the kimono monster and cause the flood in Fromville. And yeah, Xavier has been early on that theory, thinking that maybe Elgen, this kimono creature, might maybe manipulate Elgen into doing something catastrophic or bringing on the flood. We have seen a lot of foreshadowing for some kind of flood happening in Fromville with some of the drawings at Victor's, some of Victor's drawings. So who knows? Maybe. I'm definitely very sus of the kimono creature at the very least. Before this episode, I was wondering if it really just did need a little bit of help. But this episode definitely put the kimono creature on my suspect list. I feel like what we're seeing happen with Elgen here is almost word for word the exact thing that happened to Sarah in season 1. This is exactly how the voices were manipulating Sarah in the first season, promising her that we can get you all home if you do everything we say. It's very much very akin to what Sarah was going through. So I'm not too sure how much I trust the kimono monster anymore. She might be more sus than Fanny Pack Granny at this point. Maybe she's trying to manipulate Elgen. I do think she's trying to manipulate Elgen, like Xavier says. I don't know if it's necessarily to create a flood, but I definitely get the feeling that this kimono monster is trying to manipulate Elgen into doing something that is not going to be beneficial. It just, this whole manipulation tactic just way too similar to the Sarah situation.
Yeah, and she made the turn in this episode too, because previously, you know, first it was like, is she just going to kill him? Then they're like, oh, wait a minute, no, she's not going to kill him. Maybe she's something good. And I started believing that. I was like, well, maybe she's actually good and a helpful thing, or going to lead him to something good. But I think, and I don't know if it's just the physical appearance. I mean, almost the way like Dale was abrasive, so anything he said you would tend to doubt. She's scary looking. She's monstrous looking. So you're automatically going to think, well, if it looks horrifying and disgusting, then, you know, it's got to be bad, right? And then we're like, well, maybe they're subverting our expectations. Maybe they're flipping the script on us. But now she does, just the way she comes up behind him and does the whisper in the ear thing. That's classic villain. That's classic villain manipulator movements. Yeah.
I can give you the one thing that your heart desires, the one thing you want. Get all of you out of here. You just got to go kill
worm
that
tongue.
little kid. Yeah,
she's nice and thin though.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not trusting her anymore. I am not trusting her. This is pretty funny though. Someone called him Smelgen, and I agree. After seeing him wear that shirt and pants for 5 days straight, yeah, maybe he's Smelgen now. I like that. That's a pretty good one. That is a good one. You would think Elgin would have taken a group shot of the people at Colony House. That's a good point. I mean, if he's trying to create this kind of scrapbook, I mean, I can understand him maybe wanting individual pictures. But yeah, a group shot of Colony House on top of it would probably be pretty beneficial.
It's all right. It's got unlimited Polaroids too.
Exactly. That's a good point. I mean, it doesn't seem like he's running out of Polaroids anytime soon. And it seemed like that camera had probably been there for a little while before that already. Yeah. But I think, I mean, this was just so cliche right here. And this is one thing that I really like about From is usually anyway, they really do a good job of staying away from cliches and staying away from tropes. But the whole seeing the spirit in the background of the photo, it's so on the nose. So I was kind of hoping we weren't going to see this on the show. But alas, I mean, every once in a while, you kind of have to play into some of the popular horror tropes. I understand.
It was going to happen as soon as he picked up the camera from the basement, dude.
I was hoping it wasn't, though. I was really hoping
it was like Chekhov's gun. But I was hoping for something a bit more interesting than just there's someone in the background of the photo as well that would just appear there briefly. Like maybe something to do with Fatima, but maybe it doesn't have anything to do with Fatima. So
yeah,
I think it might be another red herring there too.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still not convinced this kimono creature has anything to do with Fatima. I know that's a very popular theory, and I can totally understand why people might think that. There's a lot of similarities to how the creature first appeared in season 1, and now, of course, appearing in Fatima's picture out of everybody. I can understand the thought there, but I do tend to think it's a little more of a red hanger. I just don't think this thing is attached to Fatima. I could be wrong, though, obviously. I mean, there's a lot
Maybe
of
that's what Fatima's turning into, whatever this woman
was the original theory. That was the original theory that when we found she was pregnant, we were thinking maybe this baby is going to just suck all the life out of her until she is this kind of husk of what she used to be. Because I thought it was a pretty telltale sign when we saw her losing that tooth early on in the season, which was a big sign of her being very malnourished. So a lot of people were wondering if this pregnancy was going to eventually turn Fatima into that. It was just going to suck all the life and energy and juices out of her. But
is it too obvious? Like, I mean, pretty much everyone sees that coming. Is that what From would
do? Too obvious. Yeah. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I get the feeling this kimono-like creature is going to be something different in the end. I think it's going to be a little bit more Elgin specific, and I'm not too sure how tied it's going to be to Fatima. But again, I could be very wrong. Who knows? Because it appears 1 minute in the Fatima picture, and then the next minute it's gone. It's not in the Fatima picture the next time he looks at it. He looks in the background and it's gone there. So it's there 1 minute and then it's gone the next.
And what's with this fat chick that's just suddenly started appearing in key scenes? Like, what's the dealio with that?
Clara's been there all the time. She's popped in.
I remember her.
Yeah, bit player. She had her eye. Yeah, she had her eye hit with glass after when the storm came and knocked over the antenna. Jade knocked her off of her bicycle and rode away. She's just been always present with like a one-liner every episode or two. But
it's good to have these just a wide array of. They're not quite extras, but because they're regular, but their importance comes and goes. Depending on what
NPC Clara. Yeah, From's got a good amount of NPCs running around in the background. But no, Clara's been one of those characters where, there's even a good portion of the fandom that kind of thinks she's a little bit sus, kind of similar to how people think Fanny Pack Granny's a little bit sus, popping up in some weird places. Clara has notably popped up in some very weird spots in some very weird times. Now, is it just coincidence? Is it just another one of those red herrings? Or is it just us? Is it another example of us as the audience just looking a little deeper into things that maybe just aren't there? This show really does that to you, where you have to kind of pick and choose and really decide what is worth taking a deeper look at and what is just something that is, clouds in the sky. But no, yeah, she's been popping up in the background a lot, and a lot of people think that she is very shady, and maybe there's more to her than meets the eye. I don't know.
But she may just be purely something, because she'll say like a one-liner that moves the plot along just the amount that it's necessary to move the plot along. Like, hey, everybody's already at the diner for the meeting. And then gone. And I'm like, oh,
yeah, these characters they're almost like plot devices.
A little bit, yeah, for sure. Yeah, Jade took her bike in season 1. Yeah, he stole her bike. That was funny. That was still one of my favorite scenes when Jade just steals her bike. But yeah, interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. The better question is, why is she fat if food is scarce? Way the Kodiak. Yeah, I mean, some people are just built a little bit bigger, regardless of food scarcity, I think. But yeah, Clara is everywhere. Yeah, the girl who plays Clara is pretty outside of the show. Yeah, I don't think she's ugly by any means. I mean, but yeah, she pops up in some weird spots for sure.
Well,
Clara,
and as well, remember, you don't know exactly how long all these people have been here.
Exactly. Yeah. Some of them could have been here for a few months before the Matthews family arrived, or some of them could have been here for years before the Matthews family arrived.
Can you guys correct me if I'm wrong? Did they used to get like crate drops, or am I thinking of a different show? Did there used to be an extra source of food? Yeah, I could have sworn that they was like
all the Hunger
they had
Games.
food from somewhere. I'm like, no, they had a farm, didn't they?
No, they have a little area where they grow some crops in a field outside of Colony House. But yeah, the crates, that was Lost. Lost would have these random planes that would just fly over the island every once in a while and drop pallets of food.
Must be a different show. Yeah,
that made me think when Henry and Victor were going into that little hole. I was like, it, not to shame anybody, but there are people. Some of the monsters have bigger statures too. And I'm like, man, some of these people won't be able to fit in, even if there was a way out immediately on the other side of that thing. Some of these people aren't going to be able to fit through that hole. It looked like it would be in a tight squeeze for Henry and Victor to fit through there. Unless there's multiple holes outside, some that are bigger or more accessible or whatever. But like the yoked mechanic and the other one too, the coverall mechanic that we saw in the episode, I was like, man, somebody like that size might have trouble fitting through. And even in the caves, some of those crevices, the question is not only how do some of these people fit through there, but how did all that furniture fit from that one chamber to the other if it was bigger?
And I wouldn't be surprised if there are multiple entrances. I would be very surprised if this was the only entrance. A cave system that vast, that goes on for that long, I would be very shocked if this was the only entrance to it. There must be some other entrances out there that the characters maybe just haven't discovered yet, that probably the monsters do know. Because it's just way too vast to have just this one little tiny entrance. Like you said, some of that furniture could not fit in here, like the grandfather clock and some of those big dressers and shit. You wouldn't be able to fit it in a small hole like that, I wouldn't think.
Right.
Although, again, is that one of those things where you kind of have to just suspend disbelief every once in a while? You never know. But I wouldn't be surprised if there are some more entrances somewhere else, some bigger entrances maybe.
Yeah.
We haven't seen Victor or Tabitha in that room where the Unkui kids were lying on the slabs, have we? And that was in the tunnels, wasn't it?
Yes, that was in the tunnels. We see them kind of like go a little bit past it or very close to it, because one thing we do see Tabitha go by is one of the bars, one of the little holding cells inside there. And that's one thing we noticed that was in that chamber, these little kind of sticks that look like little mini holding cells. And Tabitha, that's actually where Tabitha sees the very first Unkui child she ever sees. Right down there, it was behind one of those bars. So I'm not sure if they go into the open chamber, but I think they might go at least by it, because they do at least pass one of those cells.
I'm just thinking the caves are probably a lot more mysterious than I think there's probably a lot of it that no one really knows about.
I think so. And again, I wouldn't be, and that's the thing, we have no idea how vast these caves really are. Like, are they limited just to under the town of Fromville? Or could these caves potentially go on for much, much, much further? And we do hear Boyd earlier this season say to Kenny that, when Jade went down there, he saw something that scared the life out of him, but he didn't see any monsters. And Boyd kind of put up the possibility that maybe the monsters have, either relocated somewhere else now that Tabitha and Victor know where they are, or maybe they went a little deeper into the caves. And I feel like this episode definitely gives us more evidence that they did go deeper into the caves, because when Victor goes down there and he's trying to find this Jasper puppet, it's not in the place where he last saw it, that open chamber, that first open chamber that he and Henry arrive at, that's empty this time. It's not until they go way deeper into the caves this time that they eventually find Jasper. But taking it back to that, I know, Rob, you said something earlier that you wanted to discuss a little something about Jasper. What exactly were you...
it was exactly what you were just Talking about dude, did you guys read anything into the fact that Jasper was deeper into the caves? Does it have some sort of deeper meaning? Like, why would they do that? Why is that an important part to the story of the doll?
I kind of just thought, I mean, maybe it's just because I was thinking about that Boyd throwaway line from episode 2. Maybe I just had that line in my head, but I kind of just took it as maybe they just moved a little bit deeper in because now the humans know they're down here. That was the one advantage the monsters had. The people of Fromville, the humans, had no idea where they were coming from. They just knew they came from the forest at night. Now they know exactly where they're sleeping during the day, which could be maybe their only real vulnerable time. So I kind of just took it as maybe they just moved a little deeper into the caves to kind of maybe get a little further away from the people of Fromville, especially now that they know people are coming down into these caves more and more often, like Jade and Victor and all that.
Yeah, watching the prepared video earlier today, that raised the question of why didn't there? Well, actually, two questions. Watching the episode, she said, Victor, if you keep coming down here, one of these times we'll make you stay. That told me that it wasn't just the time that he went in there to get Tabitha out, and then that there had to have been other times that he was down there exploring. And this guy is like an obsessive copier of things that he'd seen. Why didn't he ever draw any of the drawings? Because he did as a throwaway line, hey, they draw things too. But right now, the only people that have seen the cave drawings are Victor and Tabitha, and that chamber got collapsed when the house collapsed. That was the thing, number one. Thing number two is, this occurred to me watching your prepared video earlier today. Maybe they didn't want Jasper not to be taken, because I was thinking when he was putting Jasper in that bag, I was like, he's gonna scream 100%. He's gonna scream. But I was like, wait a minute, just like Boyd with the entity / worms being brought back to town, maybe Jasper wants to be back in town. And that's why they didn't stop it.
It did seem a little too easy. And again, even to the point where the monsters literally kind of, that freaking creepy ass freaking lady monster says, right to Victor, you keep coming down here, we're going to make you stay. I mean, it seemed like it was just way too easy for Victor to grab this Jasper puppet and leave, like almost like they kind of set it here and were waiting for it to happen. And I think the Miranda shirt being there might have been another telltale sign that, we know that these things like to take things from their victims, momentums, whatever it is, little trophies, whatever, for whatever reason why monsters do it. They take things from human victims. But we see Miranda's shirt down here. I mean, is it really just coincidence that Miranda's shirt of all people is right here, just as Victor and Henry are heading into this exact room? Or
like they're expecting company. Yeah, he's got place settings out. Yeah.
Exactly. I think the monsters maybe knew Victor and Henry were going to come for Jasper and specifically put that Miranda shirt there for that reason of maybe freaking Henry out.
Yeah. It's just weird, though, that why, if they're going to let him take Jasper, why move everything from the closer access?
Here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I'm thinking. And there's the different theories, right? First one is the place itself is changing. It's snowing now. It's never snowed before in 50 years. The trees are moving. So there's no reason to assume that might not also affect the underground as well. There's that theory. There's also the fact that, like you said, Jeremy, people are becoming more aware of the tunnels, and that, they even wanted to go down there a couple of episodes ago and blow the thing up. And also, I think that it's being demonstrated time and time again that these things or some entity is basically surveilling them the whole time. They seem to know where they are, what they're doing, what they're talking about, all sorts of stuff. And they call them, they call them on the phone, they call them on the radio, they tell them, we know what you're doing, you shouldn't be doing that, all this sort of stuff. So clearly they have no problem really with Jasper Victor going down there and taking that puppet. They didn't mind, or they want him to, or whatever it is, whatever the reason is. So yeah, I think they're definitely, it's sort of like a cat and mouse game for them, and they're the cats and all these people are the mice, and they're enjoying doing whatever they're doing to them.
Yes, and again, it's like they enjoy not just killing victims, like they enjoy inflicting fear. Something about fear, I feel like these monsters really kind of maybe even draw off or feed off in some weird kind of way, because they don't just want to kill people. They genuinely, it seems like they want to instill fear into people. The fear seems to be a major aspect or a major motive to how they operate. But was the lady monster an illusion / apparition like Abby? No, this was actually one of the real monsters. We've seen this monster in some of the other scenes in previous episodes. This is actually the same monster that a lot of people thought was Donna's sister. There's a theory going around, it started popping up during season 2, that Donna's sister didn't die, that maybe she was turned into a monster. And a lot of people thought that since this actress looks a little bit like the actress that played Donna's sister, a lot of people thought this was Donna's sister. But it's not. I don't think this is Donna's sister. It's just a monster that kind of looks a little similar to that same actress. But no, this is just one of the monsters that we've seen in other scenes before. But I do think I have an idea why she's in human form. Because usually when the monsters are down here, they're always usually in monster form when they're, during the day when they're sleeping. And another thing we've noticed out in just about every other episode or every other time these monsters have ever had actual dialogue, they only seem to be able to talk when they're in human form. When they're in monster form, it seems like they can only kind of screech, that loud screech that they do. So I think this thing was in here waiting for Victor and Henry because it knew that they were coming, and it was specifically in human form because it wanted to deliver that chilling line to Victor. I don't think these things can talk regularly when they're in monster form. I think they need to be in human form to actually speak.
Because they have layer after layer of teeth too, like multiple rows of pointy teeth. It would come out
weird. It would sound very awkward if they tried. That's very weird. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I was a believer because I don't necessarily recognize faces that great, so I did a AI face recognition thing, and I put them side by side. Yeah, it said 58%, but it said this. I trusted the AI. It said these are not the same. I was like, oh well, to me it did. And I thought, but the thing is, I didn't apply any significance to it. I thought, well, they like early in season 1, they could have said, hey, we need somebody to pretend to be Donna's sister in a Polaroid that's going to be, or a 4x6 that's going to be framed for like 0.8 seconds in Donna's room with no further significance. Do you want to like put on a flannel shirt and stand next to Donna for a second while we take this pic? I thought it was just something like convenience, they didn't want to have to hire a whole new person or whoever was closest.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. And because this one's always in her headband. Yeah, Donna's sister had her hair down, and this one's always been in the headband since she's been like Cowboy's girlfriend, and then in the one, she was also the one that released the livestock. She lifted the thing at the corral.
No, that was the other one. The one that lifted the livestock was the one that laid in the street.
When the pencil skirt. You're right. Yeah, the one with the pencil. Okay, I see. Okay.
But they look very similar because they got the exact same freaking hairdo, same color, same kind of body type. They do look very similar. So I can totally understand people. And the same thing with the actress that played Donna's sister. I could totally understand why people thought this might be her because they do look very alike. I just kind of thought I just saw the difference, I guess. But no, this one right here, because some people did think this was an apparition or a vision that Victor was seeing, but no, this was definitely one of the regular monsters that we've seen in multiple other scenes.
Yeah, this is one that went with Cowboy to get that one the night of the bus arrival.
Yep. And she was also out there in the woods the night of the RV when Boyd was using the bile bullets, and he's shooting the bile bullets for the first time. There's Cowboy monster, there's the nurse monster, the mechanic monster, the cheerleader monster, and her. Those were the 5 monsters that were in the woods that got shot with the bile bullets in season 2 as well at the RV at night. So we've seen her in a few other scenes.
Okay.
She's been around. She's an OG, Fromville monster OG. But yeah, let's dive into the chat a little bit. Let's see what you guys are saying now. Chat, and I want to ask the panel this as well. What was your favorite and what was your least favorite scene of this episode? Or do you have one? If you have a scene that you liked the most, or if you have a scene that you liked the least, let me know in the chat. What were some of your favorite scenes and some of your least favorite scenes as well? But what about you, Ravener? Do you have a favorite scene and a least favorite scene from episode 6?
Let's see. Least favorite is pretty much anything to do with Tabitha, man. She was on my nerves from the first scene.
Well, she sees the Ankui children again. That's
yeah. But yeah, I mean, she started that fight with Jim, and I'm not going to get on the hate Jim bandwagon, because he was 100% right. You know, at the beginning, he's trying to console her or whatever. She's sitting there. She wanted to be. It was one of those cases where somebody wants to be mad, and he was like, you know, look, you did the best you could. How did you know that? How do you know that I did? You know, it's like, okay, fucking shut up. I'm trying to console you, trying to comfort you. You know, don't. And the thing is, ironically, when she went over there to talk to Donna while Donna was entombing Dale, you know, Donna pretty much gave her the same platitudes, the same consoling, you know, look, you know, you did the best you could, you know, blah 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 kind of stuff. But she wasn't going to jump on Donna like that. So I'm completely over with Tabby. I don't care about the Ankui kids. I don't care about her experiences. I don't care about this fucking nightmare that she had at the end. It's not a cliffhanger for me, because I'm hoping she's one of the quote unquote beloved characters that dies next episode. I know it ain't gonna happen. I'm just sick of her, man. I'm done with her. I don't care about her nightmares, her dreams, her clothing that she was wearing when she was a little child, none of that. So Tabitha, definitely the worst of the episode. Best in the episode, man, I want to say Kenny of all things, but I mean, this was a real downbeat episode, but the acting wise, Kenny really rose above, and every scene that he was in, the one with Donna, he was pretty strong in, and the one with Mariel was pretty strong in. And I know people were trying to throw, it is kind of convenient that the entire addiction storyline is gone now. I mean, the minute she's out of her withdrawal symptoms, seems to be back to normal. And people were saying, well, she's got something in the basement. She's sus. She didn't want Kenny to go to the basement. I think she was just trying to, you know, she told him, you know, like, you know, go home and get some rest. But Kenny, just like he was with the berries, when he kind of like snapped at Christy, he needs a task. He needs something to keep him occupied, so he doesn't have to cope right away. I mean, he'll cope eventually with his losses and everything, but he in the meantime, he needs to be focused on a task. And she actually, I think Mariel thought she was helping him by saying, you know, don't worry, you don't have to carry it downstairs for me. I'll take care of it from here. He needed a task. He wanted to go carry something downstairs. He wants to do a task, and then he finds himself in this home. And I've had friends, I know I'm going super long on this answer, but you know, I've had friends who, like, and this is like a grown adult man, he was older than me, but his mom died. He lived with his mother, and his mom died, and they'd just gone to Costco and bought hundreds of dollars worth of like chicken breasts and everything else, like a month's worth of food. He wouldn't even go in the kitchen because he just had that, and it rotted in the fridge essentially, because he wouldn't go in there, because it was like he was living with the ghost of his mom. He wouldn't even go in the kitchen. And people cope in different ways with their grief and accepting, you know, that. And Kenny's one of those people that needs a task. He wants to focus on a manual task and really dial himself into the immediacy of the world. You know, I got this task. I'm going to do this immediately and get it done, so he doesn't have to sit there and stew. And the worst thing you can do with somebody like that is say, you know, you need to go rest, go get some sleep, go sit there by yourself with your own thoughts. You know, that's the last thing in the world he needed.
Your grief.
Yeah. And I think that's part of why, I mean, and again, he's walking through his house and seeing his home being supplanted by another entire family. And he's just like, this ain't the home. This ain't my home again. It's, you know, it's like if you go to your childhood home and somebody else's other family has moved in there or something and moved in their stuff. It's their home. It ain't your home anymore. And I think that's what he's coming to grips with. And it's Ricky He is doing a fantastic job of doing that. He's probably one of the more versatile actors, quietly of one of the more versatile.
He's matured a lot this season, I would say.
Yeah.
So
I'm really digging him. I think he's one of the strong points, and plus I know this will be a dark horse candidate for strong point, so that'll leave everything wide open for you guys to have other favorites.
No, I like it. I've been super impressed with Kenny in season 3. I didn't really like Kenny in season 2. I just wasn't a big fan of his story arc. But yeah, Kenny in season 3, it seems like he's maturing. It does seem like he's having, you know, he's letting some of his past experience, he's learning from them. And this loss that would probably cripple most people, especially after losing your father just a few weeks before that, and now your mother a few weeks later. That's enough to cripple nearly anybody. But it seems like Kenny is, like you said, he's maturing. It seems like he's coming into his own a little bit. He is becoming. I can totally see Kenny potentially being able to take over for Boyd now. If you asked me in season 1 or season 2 if Kenny would ever be able to fill Boyd's shoes, I would have said hell no, no way. This Kenny though, I think this Kenny is well on his way to eventually becoming the next Boyd, because he's matured so much. He's become a totally different character from what he was in season 2.
Yeah, he's way too erratic in 2. Yeah.
As a construction worker, this bothered me as well, Lisa. I'm right there with you. I hated everyone stopped by to see Donna, but nobody helped her. She was always looking out for everyone in Colony House. This kind of bothered me a little bit as well. I mean, maybe it's just because I am a construction worker, so I know how labor intensive something like this would be. Even though it seems like it's small, it's not. So yeah, that did kind of get to me too. You got all these people stopping by and saying and talking to her, but nobody fucking lifted a finger to help her with this little mausoleum thing. So yeah, I'm with you.
I would have left him to rot there. There's no way I'm building that thing for him. No chance.
You're special, Rob. You're
yeah.
All right. I rarely disagree with you two, but I'm going to disagree here in that I'm finding Kenny's trajectory a little flat and disappointing for me. I thought he was sort of he was kind of becoming a bit of a badass for a while, and I feel like he might be regressing a little bit. I don't know. This is a feeling I'm getting, where I think this is like beating him down too much. And I would have hoped that maybe, like this, what had just happened would have like really, he had that moment where he's like, I'm going to go and blow these bitches up, in the tunnel. And now I feel like, he's like, oh, can I come stay at your house? Like, what is just like go full Rambo and go out and stay where the new farm is with those weird things, and so like set up his own little thing there and become like a crazy, I don't know. Like I just expected him to like, just go a little more nuts. And now I expect that is going to happen with Randall. Like Randall is going to be some like third leader now, whereas before I was thinking that might have been him, but maybe not now. So I don't know. I'm not as positive as you guys are about Kenny. But what I will say, my favorite scene is I think we're finally seeing Jade come out of this drunken fog that he's been in for nearly 2 seasons, and now we're going to actually see the genius that built this multi-million-dollar company, when it was told like it's impossible. I think like we finally got a glimpse like of a shimmer in his eye of the actual intelligence and capability here, and not just the crazy wild man of Borneo with his crazy beard.
But telling him directly,
I love that. That was my favorite scene, because the guy's like, "You look like a crazy man right now."
That was one of my favorite.
You sound like a crazy man.
Oh, every Jade scene is my favorite scene. I mean, maybe it's because I love the character so much, but no, I 100% agree. I feel like Jade he needs to come to a point where he's utilizing both sides of his brain. And, by that, I mean the tech side, like you said, the tech side where he was able to build this $1 million company where everyone told him he shouldn't, yet also mixed with this more open-minded side that has seen a little bit more of the more supernatural aspect of these things that Fromville has to offer. And I very much believe until Jade stops fearing these visions that he's seeing, he's never going to be able to fully understand and interpret them. Every time he sees a vision, he's been kind of crippled with fear. So he needs to start looking at these visions through a different lens. He needs to stop being afraid of them and start embracing them and wondering, okay, what are these visions trying to tell me? But I do think Jade is coming into his own, where he's finally kind of reaching that point where he's using the tech smarts that he has, his kind of ones and zeros binary kind of way he looks at the world, mixed with this more kind of open supernatural side of him. Once he kind of merges both of those kind of two parts of his brain, I really feel like he is going to do very well and start to kind of solve some things. I actually really enjoyed both Jade scenes in this episode, not only the one with him and Tom out in the woods, but the one with him and Boyd as well. Right at the beginning of the episode, him and Boyd talking about how Fromville might be how Tabitha could have potentially accessed some kind of wormhole, or how Fromville might actually occupy the exact same space as our real world, and how it's maybe some kind of dimensional rift. It seems
He's
like
kind of
Jade
like
is
us
heading back.
in the show.
Yeah,
He's coming up with these
yeah.
crazy theories and
He's
like just
coming up with these
throwing everything
theories.
against the wall.
It's funny you
Yeah.
say that, because I actually thought that Tom and Jade scene was almost the writers addressing the audience to an extent. Like how schizos, or like when you're schizophrenic, you think the TV's talking to you, or the radio, or even just voices. He's kind of telling us, sober up and look what's natural here. When Tom is telling Jade, look at what's natural. These bottles, the tree is here, but the bottles are not natural. It's something that somebody thought was significant, but it may not be. This is almost like the writers telling us, sober up and look at what's natural here, which is what they're writing for us.
Yeah, don't just look at what other people who might have been here and gone crazy.
Yeah, and
did in
people
the
are
past.
laying
I thought
over.
that was a really smart point.
Yeah, they're laying over the top of they take what the writers have given us and then lay what they want over the top of it and try to make it fit into their own what they want it to be. And I think that's what they're telling us is like, hey, maybe let us take the wheel. We're the guys writing it, trust us and let us look at what we're giving you. Don't look at 38 layers deep into every like every scene, set design thing, anything in the background, all that stuff, and try to make a million significances out of it. Yeah.
Exactly, and we just by its very, again, we always kind of come back to this point, but this is how that show is. It's very kind of shrouded in mystery, so sometimes you kind of want to overanalyze every little thing you see. But I do kind of have to pull myself back every once in a while and kind of take a step back and look at the show and say, okay, what are they actually really showing me? What can I really interpret from the scenes we're actually getting, and not what I think is going to be coming down the road? And that's where it's kind of sometimes hard to differentiate the two, because just by its very mystery box nature, you want to kind of dive into everything you see, even the little background stuff. But I do get the feeling a lot of the background stuff might end up being just that background dressing that is kind of just maybe meant to throw us off a little bit, maybe add a little bit more intrigue and ambiguity to the background that was maybe never even meant to be answered. But I do need to start, I always got to tell myself, what is the show actually giving me, as opposed to what I think, as opposed to where I think the show is going to go. And that's where it's kind of, you have some fun with it. And again, that's why the show is so fun, because it does challenge you. It really challenges me. I watch every episode and I'm genuinely challenged by trying to dissect and kind of analyze every scene of, this whole episode, and seeing what exactly are the writers trying to tell us by this? What are the writers trying to tell us by that? And I really did enjoy the Tom and Jade scene, them out in the woods, in terms of them talking about the natural order and how, like you said, there is a natural order to how this place operates. Jade might not be fully in tune to what that natural order is, but whatever these bottles are, this was man-made. This was placed here by somebody. And I love how he kind of leans into another thing that is part of the natural order, and that is Jade's visions. And I feel like the whole purpose of that scene was to get Jade to not only sober up and kind of use his smarts, but to also start to listen more to these visions that he's getting, and maybe a little less to these kind of man-made things that are here in Fromville. I do ultimately feel like the visions Jade has been giving, he's given these visions for a reason. These visions are going to help him solve much more than anything in this bottle tree, I feel. But I do think the bottle tree will lead to something.
I think, I don't know about you, but it seems pretty clear that Ethan is going to be able to help Jade with the bottle tree, deciphering it at least.
Did you not, some child wisdom, you think?
Yeah, I think he's got to look at it through like a child's eyes. And I think Ethan actually has a really deeper understanding of this whole place than maybe what's shown. Did you guys Did you guys obviously pick up that some numbers were backwards that Ethan pointed out?
Yeah. So the twos and sevens.
He just dismissed that out of hand.
Yeah, that's probably going to be somewhat important at some point, whether it's like a cipher key to figuring out the numbers in the bottles or something. But it's probably going to have some sort of important part, I would say.
I think so. And in terms of like Ethan, sometimes I think some of the things he said might get overlooked a little bit. Like even going back to early season 1, Ethan, I feel like he kind of already laid out exactly what the show is and what they need to do to eventually defeat it. When he kind of uses this whole quest metaphor, that this is a quest, and the closer you get to the end of the quest, the scarier it gets. And it's not until you can complete the quest that you can go home. Because again, we've all talked about similar aspects in terms of it's not going to be just as simple as them finding a way out of Fromville. They need to complete some kind of objective. They need to defeat something, whether it's like you mentioned, Rob, maybe the ultimate goal is rescuing these Ankhui children successfully. We've seen it's been failed. Everyone who has tried to save these kids has failed numerous times. Maybe saving.
Well, they're not making it very
children.
easy.
They're not making it easy. That's
terrifying you and walking towards you.
Exactly. But I do think Ethan's, that whole line from Ethan, I do think that is in some ways an allegory for the entire show, that this is one giant objective, this one giant mission, one giant quest, whatever you want to call it. It's not going to be as simple as them just finding a way out and leaving. They need to do something before they leave, or they're all just going to get pulled right back in if they leave without completing what they were meant to be here for, I feel. And I feel like Ethan kind of set the groundwork for that with his whole quest metaphor. But let me get to this real quick. We got a membership added. Thank you so much, Limitless Innovations, for becoming a member of the channel. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Be sure to make use of all the custom Fromville emojis we have down there. And of course, if you have any requests for some new ones, definitely let us know. We got Wine and From for $2 as well. Thank you so much, Wine and From. Cheers to that Tabitha smackdown. Yeah, the fandom has been kind of split down the middle on that, where you had how some of the things where Ravener was discussing. Some people seem to be on Jim's side, and some people seem to be on Tabitha's side. Yes, I feel like people are always going to be on Tabitha's side a little bit more, just because so many people hate Jim. Which again, he does some boneheaded things, but I don't like to hop on the Jim hate bandwagon either. I do feel like Jim is eventually going to have a very kind of vital role in the show, and I wouldn't be surprised if Jim ultimately dies saving his family. So I haven't counted out Jim fully yet, but I do recognize his flaws. But Tabitha is also flawed as well, so I'm not going to just kind of say it's only Jim. Tabitha also has some flaws as well.
You can hate both of them. You don't have to choose.
This is true. Very true. You can hate both if you want. You can hate or love both. That is totally cool.
I don't like the entire family, to be honest.
I don't hate any of them. I think they're all just acting as how I imagine they would act. I mean, almost everyone in the show has some kind of annoying quirk. Not everyone, but almost everyone. And she is a little bit turned up, but I think she was pretty unfair to him. But I think what she did, I think he acted completely how I would probably act in the situation he was in when she just went off to the tree to save some ghost kids. And you're just gonna let your kids think you died for 4 days and then come home and act like, oh well, everything's back to normal. No, I think he has a pretty decent right to be upset, but yeah.
Again,
and he wasn't. He wasn't even at her throat.
No, he wasn't.
Because he's like, you did the best you could, and instead of saying or anything like that, she's like, how do you know that? How do you know I couldn't have done more?
True.
Oh,
True.
okay.
She did escalate it. Yeah.
That was actually my worst scene, or the worst part of the whole episode for me, was that fight scene, because I didn't find it believable. I don't know how often you've argued with a partner or a friend, but saying the exact words that you want to get out the way you want to say them is so hard to do, and they both seem to make their points perfectly. I just didn't buy it, so that was probably my worst part of the whole.
It was a scripted
episode.
Argument, and it kind of came across like a scripted
felt that
argument.
way. It really did. It really felt like a scripted argument.
It did. It did.
Which the show is so good at not doing for the majority of the time.
Yeah.
So did you guys make any significance out of that? The whole thing ended when the monster screamed in the background. Do you think they were feeding off of that, or?
I just thought it was hilarious. I just thought it was a hilarious coincidence where even the monsters were screeching for Jim and Tabitha to shut the hell up.
Yeah, that's what Yellow Rose says in the chat. Here, the monster's telling her to shut up. I think it was just that happened. So, okay, that's a good segue to just get out. Anytime someone comes in the middle, just
it was even the monsters were tired of hearing this argument. Shut up already. That's the monsters outside saying shut up. But that one thing I did think we find was very interesting in that episode was we got this was one of the first times that we've seen an entire night sequence happen where we didn't get a single night scene. Nothing happened. Usually that's how the show goes. You'll have like an episode or two that'll be during the day, then like a nighttime episode, then like another episode or two that are during the day. Episode 4 and 5 were both daytime episodes. And then you would think that we were heading into episode 6 and it was going to be a little bit more of a nighttime episode. And it was only that very beginning scene where Jim and Tabitha were having that argument. That was the only nighttime scene we got. And then it flashed right back to daytime. So this was one of the first times they skipped over an entire night on the show. They've never done that before. So I thought it was interesting. Usually we always get at least something on the nighttime scenes.
Speaking of other first. Oh, yeah.
Just one last one. We got Suff Lenny for $2. Thank you so much, Suff Lenny. Could it all be a tale of bloodlines and blood magic? I suppose anything could be possible. I mean, one thing I do find a little bit interesting is why the boy in white seemingly wants the Kavanaugh family here. If the boy in white really did send Tabitha to the real world to bring Henry back, why exactly does the boy in white want the Kavanaugh family here? What is special about Victor and his family? Or is it a bloodline thing? Is it something about them? I mean, we do know that they've had a very close connection to this place with Miranda and Victor as well. But it seems like there's something about the Kavanaugh family that maybe the boy in white wants here. Again, I wouldn't be too surprised if that was his ultimate goal in sending Tabitha to the real world, just to bring Henry back. But I don't know, who knows? I mean, could it be a tale of bloodlines and blood magic? I suppose anything could be possible at this point. It does seem like the further we get into the show, it seems anyway, that we're moving closer and closer into more of the supernatural realm and not so much sci-fi. So who knows? I mean, you guys think there could be some kind of like full-on blood magic at some point, or do you think they're going to keep the supernatural side a little more ambiguous how they have up until this point? I don't know if they're going to go like full-on fantasy.
The actual creatures themselves, are they demons? Are they vampires? They don't seem to drink blood, but they come out at night. They can't come out during the day. There's definitely some vampiric things going on there, and that's obviously got to do with blood. Fatima was drinking blood, and I wouldn't be surprised. As to the bloodlines, clearly there are some people who are already pre-connected to this place. We've seen 2 already.
Yes.
How the others are connected, we can't really see yet, but wouldn't put it past them.
So are we all in agreement, or at least thinking that Tabitha is Eloise? Is that what we got where we're at now?
I mean, I feel
who's Eloise?
Victor's sister.
Victor's sister.
But even with the nightmares she's having, Jeremy, I used to have nightmares about this place with 3 rocks with blood on them. Like, is that nightmares or just memories?
I don't know. I mean, it could just be that she was just seeing Fromville similar to how Miranda was, just seeing visions and nightmares of this place before she landed here. But that's been a big one in the fandom where a lot of people think Tabitha is Eloise.
Venezuela.
Yeah, she's.
I mean, I didn't get anything out of. All I got was out of that whole scene of her memory or whatever is basically they're just setting up. Oh shit! Well, now Tabby has to make an adventure out to Cannibal Village. That's all that I got from that. Is
Tabby needs to go visit these rocks.
Yeah, that's it.
The only thing that I actually really enjoyed about the scene was what exactly was scaring this kid. I'm a little more concerned with that. What exactly was creeping up? What was stalking this kid? Where she's hiding behind this rock from something, and then whatever she's hiding from.
Could be
pulls right up on her. So I'm a little more interested in that. What the hell pulled up on this kid to scare the ever-living daylights out of him? Because we know it couldn't have been a monster. It's broad daylight out, so it has to be something else.
And it's super tall, because I mean, if her head's about the height of these rocks, and she's a kid, probably 3 feet tall or something. So whatever it is really towering over her. Probably more than even
could be standing on the rock though.
Right. If it's nimble,
it could have been raped by a pride of lions.
Rob Liefeld.
Thanks. Eesh. No, a giant spider has been a kind of popular theory. I still don't know where I stand on the giant spider personally. Like, I know there's been some evidence with all of the spider webs, the giant spider webs that we see after Boyd and Sarah's tent gets dragged, but I don't know. I just are they really gonna go full on giant spider mode on this show? I'm not sure if they're gonna go like full on fantasy mode, I guess is what I'm saying. But what do you guys think? Do you think we'll actually see a giant spider at some point? Because some people seem to think this was the giant spider descending down on her based on the kind of POV of it being above her. But it seemed like this thing more walked up to the rock and didn't fly down from it. What do you guys think? You think we'll see actually a giant spider?
I don't know, man. It feels like they would have done it by now if they were going to do it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Well, that would kind of surprise me. Come out of left field. I mean, what have we seen? Webs?
Yeah,
like,
Tom told me to sober up, so I don't know.
Yeah, we've seen webs. We've seen some.
I didn't even think there's a mole in the town. So a giant spider is like pretty big.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I struggle. I mean, who knows what's going to happen really, but I would be surprised at least at this point. If they really do go full on giant spider appearance, I'll be surprised because I just don't see that in the cards. I feel like the spiders might be a little bit more of metaphoric, or even kind of maybe the spiders that we were seeing in the drawings were just simply foreshadowing for the spiders that Boyd already encountered. So I don't know. I mean, again, anything's possible here in Fromville. But just me personally, I would be surprised if they go on full on fantasy mode where they have like a giant spider crawling around. It's possible.
Could just be one of these monsters in monster mode, just perched on top of the rock. I mean, that would be all you'd need. Yeah, but it's in a dream. It's in a dream. She's dreaming about this.
It's just weird. Like if they set up the spider stuff in the past, then they did nothing with it. Then they set it up again at the start of the season, and they didn't do anything with it. So to do it again and then not do anything with it, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like.
Well, they haven't. What have they? No, hang on. What have they done this season?
Well, the huts, when they're in the huts and there's something walking around, everyone was assuming that was like a spider.
I wasn't assuming that.
Spider. I think that was more along the lines of, I mean, I don't know if it is, but the first thing that I thought of were two scenes. The scene when Boyd and Sarah got their tent dragged by whatever the heck that was, whatever was dragging their tent, definitely didn't seem like it was a monster. And then we hear of a similar tapping in season 2 when Boyd, Jim, Randall, and Donna are stuck in the RV. They hear a very weird tapping coming from the floor of the RV, which shouldn't be possible because the whole RV is tipped on its side at that point. So there's nothing but ground beneath them. Yet they hear the tapping coming from the floor. So when I hear the tapping in the cannibal village, it kind of made me think of those two scenes. But no, that's the only thing I could possibly think of is maybe there's a small chance that whatever is stumbling around out there at night at Cannibal Village, could it potentially be the same thing that dragged Boyd and Sarah's 10? If it's not that, it's going to be something new we haven't seen before, I get the feeling. But who knows? Who knows? And yeah, we did hear a little bit of a flying sound, but I think the sound that we hear was just a little bit more of sound effects for the scene and not actually coming from whatever was approaching her. Because you do hear like a weird little kind of fluttering sound as this thing approaches this girl. But again, I kind of took that more as that was just kind of sound effects for the scene and not exactly coming from whatever was approaching her. But I could be wrong. Who knows? It did kind of sound
another
weird,
one
like fluttering.
Yeah, another one that we never saw before, and this is kind of they do this probably every episode, or I know they did it last episode. They'll bury something that might be significant in with the same way that they did the flashback when Julie was collecting Fatima's weed, and then that was buried by her interactions with Elgen and smoking up and all that stuff. They did that again here when Henry was looking at that car and he was telling the story, and it said the lady drove far away to buy one to the only store that still sold them, talking about the cars. And it's like they're expanding the world in a way that we had never even heard of or considered before or thought possible, right? And then it said she saw the tree before she got home. She's dead, or and she's dead now. Was there like a driving way out of Fromville, or was Fromville just big enough that there was another entire settlement where somebody would keep a store that would still have these toy cars and stuff?
No, I think he was saying that that's how she got into Fromville.
That's how she got stuck here. Yeah, she went to the kids saw the bike in the back of a magazine.
Oh,
So
in the
she
real
went to the
world.
store.
Yeah.
In the real world,
I thought that
She
as
went
well
to the
too.
store
I
to
was like,
find
that
it.
was a very interesting way to tell that story because he wasn't 100% clear. He was afterwards. I thought, okay, so he's telling a story that she told him.
Yes.
Afterwards, about
Of
how she
got
got
stuck
there,
here.
All that happened
and
in
that
the
her
real
son
world.
was
Then she
back
saw the
in
three.
the real
Okay.
world.
Okay.
Who was
Yeah,
about to
and that's why
die.
Victor says, her son probably ended up dying, and she never had a chance to give her son this car because before she got a chance to bring it back
Okay.
to him, she
It
got stuck
was
here on her
Yeah,
way
he's
back
probably
from
dead.
getting the
Okay.
car.
That one,
I remember
it missed me
thinking that's
completely.
an
Okay.
odd thing to talk about. Like, why are we talking about this car? Because that took up like a minute of time, and there wasn't really enough time to properly explain what he was talking about. And I didn't. At the end of it, I'm like, I don't know why we even needed to, unless it comes into relevance later.
I think it was just to showcase the awkward phase that Henry and Victor are in right now at this moment, where they're kind of feeling each other out. Henry's not quite sure how to approach him. He's not quite sure how to kind of connect with him. I kind of just took that scene as just that them kind of still being in that weird awkward phase where they just don't really know how to talk to each other yet.
Okay.
So Victor kind of just spit out any story he could because
Okay.
Henry happened to be at that thing.
Okay. And so that makes the part at the very end where he goes, but you can walk with me if you want. Like, that kind of like brought it all back together. They were still not quite on the same wavelength. And he's like, well, you can't come with me because I got to do this important thing. It's too dangerous for you, but you can walk with me if you want, which was, and the way Victor's pulling off the way Scott McCord is pulling off Victor in with his mental state and the way he interacts with adults, in addition to how he interacts with like Ethan as a kid, but his childlike approach or whatever, still like spot on, picture perfect, so believable and good. That was a very good one.
Yeah, the acting is just I can't give it up to Scott McCord's acting enough.
I didn't even
so good.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got Robson.
Yeah.
Here
And
for $10.
I'm just going to add in before we continue. Okay.
Please. No, go right ahead.
Oh, I just want to say about how much everybody talks in the caves and stuff. And I know you're supposed to be quiet in the caves. And I'm the first one to make fun of these people for talking so much. But it's how hard would it be to have like a 4 minutes of screen time where nobody's talking, even if you had music helping you with the suspense
on a show
and
like
stuff.
this with no dialogue.
You couldn't have somebody silent for 4.
learn a little bit of that military, hand signal stuff. Go forward, stop. Because your voice would really carry. I mean, it would carry a long way down in that echoey cave.
Well, he lost his shit when he saw that scarf, so it was all over at that point.
Yeah,
there's no stealth.
He was gonzoed.
He put in check, Grandpa.
Show that scarf in his mouth.
Stuff it in his mouth. Really, shut up, Henry. What are you doing? We got Robson for $10. Blood seems to be very important in the show. The talismans have Old Norse runes on it, and the Vikings are known for doing human sacrifices. Maybe that's what gives them power. I mean, I do think blood does play some sort of part. I mean, when we look at Jade, just about every single time Jade has seen the vision of the symbol, there's been blood involved every single time, whether it's the symbol itself manifesting right out of blood on the wall when he sees the Jasper puppet for the first time, or whether it's Christopher, the vision he has of Christopher opening the book and the symbol literally bleeding, or whether it's one of the first times he sees it in season 1 when he sees the Civil War soldier and he sees all of the body parts in the trees below him and he's literally covered in blood. Just about every time Jade sees the symbol, there's blood involved in some way or another. So I could definitely see blood being some sort of aspect. And even when Jade sees one of his latest visions here in season 3 of the person drinking the blood out of the human skull, right after that person is done drinking the blood, they gesture like they're trying to pass the cup or the skull to Jade, almost like Jade was meant to drink the blood too. So yeah, it definitely seems like blood, at the very least, is tied to this symbol and to Jade's storyline, because it's been very tied to every vision he's had, almost every vision he's had up until this point. But in terms of the talismans. I'm not so sure if the talismans are Viking runes. They are kind of similar to Viking runes. They're also very similar to some Native American runes that look very similar as well. But I do think that the symbols on the talisman are just simply a representation of Fromville itself. And the reason why we talked about this a little bit last week, but when we look at the cave paintings, we see that the representation for trees, the symbol for trees on the cave paintings are the exact same symbol that are on the talismans. So I think that the talisman symbols, the ones that are on the outside, these ones here, these symbols right here that we see all over the place that do sort of resemble Norse mythology runes. I think they are just the representation of the trees inside Fromville. And then when we look at the talismans, I do believe I have a picture of the talismans as well. If not, I will have to pull up my other folder. When we look at the actual talismans, it looks like they are simply just a representation of the entire town. Whereas you can see the forest on the outside, and then on the inside, you see a symbol of a duology symbol, almost like a yin-yang symbol, where on one side you have a stick figure, on both sides you have stick figures. And I think there are both symbolizing the humans and the monsters. And then on the other side of the talismans, you have a depiction of night and day, a sun and a moon. So I think the talismans, the symbols on the talismans, are just simply a representation of what Fromville is. I also thought they were kind of maybe Viking in origin, or even
I remember
Native
thinking
American
that
origin at
too,
the beginning.
Viking or American Indian magic or something like that. But now I'm much more thinking it's a lot more, I don't want to say biblical, or just like primordial. Like these could be sort of like, this could be hell, demons, like something that it just happens that because it's in the US, it's filtering in Americana into it. Like you get this 50s Americana aesthetic, small town stuff, but you also get the Civil War stuff, and that's the reason why you get all this symbology happening in there. But at the fundamental core of it, I think this is like some kind of super ancient evil force, whether that's demons or whatever, that's just sort of underpinning the whole thing. And these runes and everything is just sort of interpretations and symbols that have come about over the who knows how long this has been going on. Decades and stuff.
I think it's just a representation of Fromville itself, like what the dichotomy of Fromville, the nature of Fromville, where you see the trees on the outside, because we have seen these exact same symbols are used to represent trees on not only the cave symbols, but also on some of the peach truck maps as well. We've seen these exact same symbols used to depict trees in other areas. So I think these symbols are simply just meant to be the forest that is surrounding Fromville, and this is meant to be a symbolization of the town itself, where you have human and monster, night and day, sun and moon. So I really just think it's a representation of what Fromville is as a whole. I thought they were Viking or Native American runes at first as well, but after seeing these same symbols depicted all over the place, and they're all depicting trees, now I'm a little more convinced that it's just a symbol of what Fromville is as a whole. The forest on the outside, the town stuck in the middle, humans, monsters, night, day. That's kind of my take on it, though. I could be wrong.
What do you think the actual symbol is, though, Jeremy? Not the talisman, but the symbol that Jade sees. Do you have a theory on that?
Not really. I mean, there's really nothing they've given us on.
Well, I mean, we know its roots. We know its roots through that hole, looking down. So that, I mean, that in and of itself,
see the blocks represented there too. The 7 blocks of the 7 Onkui children, and right above the blocks, the symbol, like where we saw the roots. But what exactly does it mean? I mean, there's really nothing definitive to go on yet. There's a lot of good theories, but in terms of like factual data, I haven't seen anything yet.
I was talking to Frenchie Maple last night about this exactly this scene and the order, and she was asking about, have we explored whether it's read from right to left instead of left to right, instead of like you go from right to left and it appears that people are leaving by boat rather than arriving by boat?
That was a question that we even discussed that last year as well, if we were even reading these cave symbols in the right direction. And we're just so used to reading from left to right because we're kind of taught that way, because that's how we were taught in school. You read left to right, or at least here in the States. But you could be right. I mean, there's so many other languages and depictions out there that do often read from right to left as well. So yeah, we could have been looking at it the opposite way. Absolutely, that's possible.
And we're not served at all by the fact that, even, you know, again, it bears repeating that really only 2 people have seen those cave paintings, Tabitha and Victor. And now that the Matthews house collapsed on that chamber, you know,
will anybody ever see him again?
Right? Will they actually excavate it or even bother? I haven't looked casually when they've shown the town from the outside. Are the ruins still there, or did they do anything with the Matthews house, or is it just left?
It's just still in rubble. Like, you can still see, like, right where it collapsed. They've left it right as it is. It doesn't look like they haven't cleared away the debris or anything. It's all just kind of a rubble there still.
Do you think that it could be the faraway trees? Like they're wrapping over each other and there's only one real way out through the faraway trees?
One way out of, like, Fromville itself?
Like see the
trees.
symbol there, right? Imagine there are three faraway trees that wrap over each other.
Okay, like each root is a faraway tree maybe, and they kind of intersect here, and this little one portal is the way out? Okay, interesting. I never thought of that myself.
I always thought that symbol was trees in some way, so I was very happy when I saw that it was like at least roots.
Yeah, it seems like it's roots, and Jade even says in episode 5 where it wasn't a symbol, it was roots. So at least Jade is kind of operating under the assumption that this might not actually be a symbol that means something. It just might have been those roots. Now, what are those roots is the question.
And remember, when he looked up, it wasn't always there. Sometimes it was just the top of the cave, and then the other time there was the hole.
Yeah, like when he was seeing the symbol or like the roots, it was open, and yet when the Yankui children disappeared, he looked back up, and it seemed like the roots were just closed. The opening was closed again at that point. I mean, was it some kind of doorway or some kind of portal that was being opened, maybe? And again, we get another hint of that in this episode as well, where we hear Jade, you know, again, talking to Boyd, talking about how Tabitha may or may not have gotten out of Fromville in terms of wormholes or dimensional rifts.
So you're saying this could be some kind of code?
Yeah, or an algorithm, or who knows? Look, the fact is Tabitha got pushed out of a lighthouse and somehow ended up near a hiking trail in Camden, Maine.
Okay.
Unless she experienced some kind of quantum event, right? Or a wormhole, or any number of theoretical events that would allow her to get from the lighthouse in the woods to Camden, Maine. Maybe the lighthouse in the woods occupies the same space as Camden, Maine. Maybe it wasn't a wormhole so much as a dimensional rift.
Jade.
I can understand an awful lot of people get confused, but the truth is a wormhole is a shortcut through space and time, whereas a dimensional rift...
Jade, stop.
Sorry, what?
He's us. it's us.
I love it.
Now hear me out, guys.
Hear me out. Every time I see something like that, you just can't help but think of the Always Sunny in Philadelphia meme, or Pepe Silva, Pepe Silva, Pepe Silva. But no, I mean, you see this whole root thing opening, and you start to learn that maybe it wasn't a symbol that actually means anything. What if Jade was actually seeing some kind of sacrifice, some kind of experiment happening where they were using these Ankui children for some kind of sacrifice to open up a doorway or open up a portal from Fromville, maybe to the real world. Maybe that was some kind of doorway or portal, one of these dimensional rifts that Jade was mentioning. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? But it doesn't seem like it's going to be like a regular symbol that's going to like mean something. It seems like it was just those roots. But again, all that scene did was really offer up more questions. And that's why I was a little disappointed when we got that reveal at the end of season 2, to be honest. I'm hoping Jade's going to go down into those caves. At least I was hoping when Jade was going down into those caves, we were going to see something a little bit more definitive. But really all we got was some vague connection from the Ankui children to this symbol or to these roots. And we really didn't get much more else beyond that. So we're still left to wonder just what exactly was it that Jade saw, really. We still really don't know. But it could be some kind of doorway, some kind of portal, some kind of dimensional rift. They seem to be kind of playing with that kind of notion right now. And maybe even the boy in white, that's how he kind of sent Tabitha to the real world. Because that's one thing we wondered as well. We see the boy in white push Tabitha out the window, and next thing we know, she wakes up in the real world. But how exactly did it happen? How did she get from A to B? What was the mechanism in which she actually ended up in the real world? And could it potentially be that the boy in white is maybe capable of opening one of these dimensional rifts, for lack of better terms, and that's how he sent Tabitha back to the real world? Because again, I think a lot of us are on the assumption that it's not just going to be as simple as going back to that lighthouse and jumping off of it. That's just going to lead to
he
death.
pushed her.
Right.
Yeah,
And
I
they
think he was specifically responsible for opening a rift and sending Tabitha through it.
and they definitively proved that the one faraway tree that Victor essentially guaranteed goes to a reliable location. It does not go to one reliable location, as proved by Dale.
Not for Dale. But I'm wondering, is that because they mess with the bottles? Were the bottles in some way directional? Were the bottles?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just a guess. But could the bottles have been in some way directional, having those bottles, those exact numbers in that exact order, in that exact
computer
tree?
code, like a program.
Yes. Was that why that tree sent people to the lighthouse? And then when Jim and Tabitha and Jade start taking these bottles down, now it starts just acting like a regular faraway tree again.
Yeah, and that would, if there was going to be
Okay.
anyone who could figure that out, it would be Jade, because that's like a computer program.
Exactly.
You gotta put
Yeah.
in the input into the program to get the machine to work how you want it to work.
Yeah, you
That's-
subtract
and even
one
Jade
line of
was
code and
saying
it
that-
messes everything up. Yeah.
Yeah.
One line of code is all it takes to bug the whole friggin' system. Exactly. And then maybe that's as simple as taking one of these bottles out of the tree messes with the whole design. But no, I do think Jade he's the man for the job when it comes to recognizing some kind of code or algorithm. And he even says that to Boyd at the beginning of the episode, where he thinks that these numbers are some kind of code hidden inside or some kind of algorithm that he just hasn't quite seen yet. But I do think he will eventually discover some kind of pattern within these numbers that will hopefully lead him to something more definitive, at least.
Yeah, at the very end,
Rob,
though, when he was talking to Ethan, he really seemed sure they were dates, though, because he actually said these
He did.
dates or numbers. So it was like, ooh,
Mhm.
man. But then again, that's us going along with Jade, with what Jade believes too. So he could, next episode he could be like, guys, I was entirely wrong. It's something completely different, and that would be entirely consistent with his character too, which would be like, oh man.
It would be, and it's interesting because when Jade does get to this other bottle tree, the one that isn't a faraway tree, the one that just has bottles in it, the one that Boyd and Sarah found, he takes all of those numbers down and he finds they're the exact same numbers that are in this tree. Only one are written down numerically, and the others are written in cursive, whatever that means. So yeah, I don't, who knows what it is? Are they dates? Are they coordinates? Are they code? I don't know, but I do think Jade will eventually suss out some kind of pattern, probably with help from Ethan, as you guys mentioned earlier. I think Ethan might be vital to helping him as well.
Rob's got a split, man. Hey, thanks for joining us. Great questions. It's always a pleasure having you, man.
Thanks for having me. Just wanted to say, chat are always awesome. I always read all the comments. We might not get to them all because there's so many of them, but yeah, keep them coming. There's so many interesting and different ideas that come out of chat. So
I love it.
But yeah, have a great show, guys. I'll catch you all later. Bye.
Right on.
Thank you
and
so
it's
much
so
for joining
funny.
us, Rob.
Yeah,
And,
it's so funny.
always
We don't
welcome.
even agree on the panel, with each other. So don't feel bad if you
that's
guys in the chat have a different take. It's so funny.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what's great about the show, and I know you and I say this all the time, Ravener, but like, how boring would it be if we all just had the exact same opinion on every single scene we see? It's
Oh,
that
yeah.
kind of, that difference of how we look at things, whether it's our life experiences, what we've seen in other shows, how we dissect scenes. Everybody's watching the same show, but each of us are watching it through our own lens. So I think it would be incredibly boring if everybody just agreed on everything. It's fun that we have some of these differing opinions every once in a while and some of these fun discussions. Absolutely.
Yeah, but Rob's wrong. That's all.
Rob's always
almost.
wrong. Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of people don't know Rob from the past, but yeah, he's got a pretty good record of being wrong.
Just about 99% of the time, yeah. But
We're almost, and this is Rob Tober.
Anyway.
It's always Rob Tober, so he's got 2 more days where we are nice to him.
He's got 2 more days, yeah.
No. But the thing I'm coming across more and more often is I'm coming across where I just don't know if there's a question like what do I like, what do I don't like, that I can answer. But sometimes, what do you make of the numbers? Man, I don't know. It's beyond me. And I mean, there's a point where I just take my hands off the wheel and let the showrunners and the writers run the show
Take
and
us on this journey.
yeah, entertain me. Yeah, give me some entertainment.
Yeah,
Show me a
give me
show, but
something.
I don't know, man.
And you guys pay a lot more attention to this than I do. I sometimes watch this show with my hand in front of my face. I don't really good with like scary stuff, but like, you guys say stuff, I'm like, oh my god, I completely forgot that even happened. So I think there are they put so many clues and so many red herrings, and just stuff. They fill every place with things in the background, and some of them must mean something and some of them probably don't, but they look like they do, so that there's all these clues here. And when the show is finally over and we know what the ending is and everything, going back and seeing all that and kind of watching it all with new eyes is going to be a whole different experience. But at the moment, we just like Jade said, we're tantalizingly like halfway there. Maybe I don't even know if we're halfway there, but we don't even have the corners of the puzzle, so we don't know what we're building. But we've got all these pieces. How do they fit? Yeah,
don't even have these freaking edges. At this point, it's easier to put together one of Michael Bancroft's Lucent puzzles than it is to find.
Yeah, exactly. One of the ones that's all dark.
Yeah.
But we're getting there, though. I have faith, though, that we're actually moving in a direction towards getting the answers. That
a lot more characters are talking to each other. A lot more characters are getting off their
actively
butts.
strategizing. They're sharing information.
They're
like this is the kind of activity. Yes, they're finally becoming more active with working with one another.
Yeah,
and that's
well, I mean, we just in this episode alone. Yeah, I'm sorry. I think I don't know if I'm getting like a delay or something.
No worries.
We saw it just in this episode alone. Both Mariel and Randall made a little bit of a connection, and he kind of challenged her. Why are you pretending everything's okay? And then towards the end, Julie and Randall, they're going to smoke up. So it's like the three people that had that experience. Yeah, the three people that had that experience are going to put their heads together. Yeah, and that's that was a good scene.
Just going around getting the entire town high at this point.
That bottomless bag, that bottomless coin purse.
But no, I mean, and I do want to touch a little bit on that Randall and Mari scene here in a minute, because I actually really enjoyed that scene and some of the more kind of subtle nuances that were kind of underneath the surface that you kind of don't really see until you really take a closer look at that scene, especially with Randall. Randall's very subtle in his conveying of emotions, but it is there if you know how to look for it.
Yeah, I have a lot of notes on that scene. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, awesome. No, that was one of the better scenes, I thought. Robert Saunders, though, for $10. Thank you so much, Robert. Perhaps it is a flock of crows flying over the little girl. The camera angle is very reminiscent of the crows looking down on Ethan. Ooh, interesting. I mean, the camera angle is very weird because it goes from, it's almost like we're kind of seeing not that entire scene, but a lot of that scene through the POV of whatever that thing was, and not actually the POV through this girl. So now, was that the POV of Tabitha's dream? Was she actually watching this little girl? Was that actually Tabitha's POV we were seeing? Or was that this thing that kind of creeped up on her? I don't know. But again, it did definitely seem like it was a little bit more of a bird's eye view of whatever was in front of her. It was definitely either very, very tall or coming from the sky. It was very much pretty big. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was.
Remember the dead bartender said, "Pay attention to what's natural here." And the crows are natural and are acting very weird. They're banging into windows. They're circling the fallen trees. They're all over the place. And that's definitely not something that someone has done. That's naturally occurring in the place.
And I wonder if Jade's even aware of that whole crow flying through because colony house things. What happens in colony house may not be immediately shared or ever maybe even shared.
Can you guys imagine? Because you know how Victor's mom, she dropped acid and was able to see the village. Can you imagine if someone brings in acid to Fromville and you go into the forest and take a hit? What you might see in Fromville.
I think that's why Jade might have experienced some of the things that he's experienced as well. Because when Jade arrives in Fromville, he's clearly on some kind of tryptamine, some kind of hallucinogenic. I mean, he's not just that's not just your average high. He was definitely on some kind of hallucinogenic. And then you hear this whole line of of Miranda taking that last hit of acid, and boom, that's when the visions start. So some people do think that there is something to the altered state of consciousness, or the unconscious or the altered state of consciousness. Maybe that factors into some of these characters having some of these visions in the first place. Maybe I suppose it's possible.
Lad in the chat brings up something very interesting. Has anyone Googled Camden, Maine? Is there any local mythology, anything to do that would be specific to Camden? Like
I looked
I
up
know
Camden,
Julie
Maine
B had
just to
been
see
there
if it
before.
was just to see if it was a real place, and it is a real place. Camden, Maine is actually a real place. But beyond that, no, I haven't done much research into like the
that
actual
could be
town.
something to do, yeah, because you
history.
know different towns have different histories, and there's also
Absolutely.
always urban legends and myths, and
There's some tower.
you know.
There's a stone tower. I know Snuggie Jr. had like taken screenshots of some stone tower, but it's of a different time period kind of thing. But it's like, because I guess they say like it's a very small town, almost like a touristy town.
Super small, yeah.
Yeah, but
Small
which kind
little
of
coastal town.
yeah. Not everything that we saw in the Camden Maine on From corresponds to the actual one. I think they may just be using it as like set dressing or the name of kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
pretty
the
interesting
St.
though.
Thomas Hospital, that's not in Camden, Maine. That's strictly a show specific thing. There's no St. Thomas Hospital in Camden, Maine. That was just for the show. But yeah, I think because some of
Yeah,
like
but you
street
would
dressing.
imagine they would have sent her there for some reason. I don't know. It would seem odd if they just plucked a random real town out of thin air.
Yeah,
For
well, yeah.
no
Why did they
reason.
choose Camden, Maine, to be the town that Victor's family lived in? I guess is the case.
Yeah, and it was super
question.
cool that before they even mentioned it, people had identified it just from the Tabitha's
that
view
one image.
at the cliffhanger ending of season 2. That identified, oh, that's Camden, Maine, and then we got all these confirmations with the patches on the patch on the officer's arm, and then different, and then the straight up address in the lunchbox later on in season 3. So it was super cool that people did sleuth that one out. Again, is it really just set dressing? Is it that they wanted to anchor it in a real life place in the real world without really going too deep into making sure it was the Camden, Maine and From is a 1-to-1 analog with the Camden, Maine that we actually we have. They just want to say that, but it still ties it to the real world, at least to an extent.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's some.
That,
yeah,
I think it might just be a nod to Stephen King, to be honest. I think it might not be.
Could be. Yeah, as I was saying, like
King,
there could be something there that means something to someone who's made this story, whether it's in the story or like what you said, a nod to
and
Stephen King,
into it, maybe.
Or it could be like just say you were writing something and you said it in Jersey because there's the Jersey Devil or something like that. It's like, and then you somehow tie that into your story. Like that sort of thing is what I'm thinking, but it could just be
and like Delana McKay's saying, and you guys, I was not aware of this, but I think Jeremy, you'd pointed it out, and other people have pointed out the 4s and 7s have a definite tie to Stephen King. Yeah, and it's almost like a direct nod to him, kind of thing.
I think
which it might be no further than that. It might be.
Is that where he's from, or did he set stories there?
Yeah, Stephen King he lives in Maine, and all of his stories are set up in the Maine area as well. And in his famous big Maine mansion, on the gates to his main mansion are a giant 4 and a giant 7. Stephen King was born in 1947. That's where the 4 and 7s come from. And not only that, Stephen King and Jack Bender, the director of From, are lifelong best friends as well. So it would be very understanding for them to throw some winks and nods into Stephen King in the show. He was a huge inspiration behind the show, I would imagine. But no, I think the 4s and 7s, until the 4s and 7s start playing an actual role in the actual plot, then I'll start to think maybe there's a deeper meaning. But at this point, the 4s and 7s all seem to be nothing more than just background dressing, background noise. They haven't really meant anything to the actual plot. So that leads me to believe it's just a wink and a nod to Stephen King.
That's why all those old people talk like the Pepperidge Farm guy, like sometimes dead is better, with the main.
Is that how they talk up there?
Yeah.
I guess so, yeah. It sounds kind of familiar. But thank you, Robert Saunders, and everybody else for the super chat. You guys are the best, and I think I definitely owe you guys a whoa.
Oh, good pickup. 61 records. St. Thomas, just the name of their dead kid.
Not yeah, and not only that. I mean, the thing that made me interested about Saint Thomas is the patron saint of recovering lost items, and it's almost wondering. It's like, did
Oh
the boy in
my
white
god.
send Tabitha? Yeah,
Is that
did the
it's
boy in white
Christopher?
send
Was it Saint
Tabitha?
Christopher or Saint Thomas?
Saint Thomas.
Is
Saint
that
Thomas
the
is
the hospital?
yeah, St. Thomas was the hospital that Tabitha wakes up in, which is also the patron saint of recovering lost items. So that led me to believe that maybe that's a little hint as to why the boy in white sent her there in
Saint
the first place.
Anthony's. Saint Anthony's.
Maybe she
We
was
got it all
St.
wrong.
Anthony, excuse me, St. Anthony's. Yeah, the hospital was St. Anthony's.
It's my
And
middle
the
name. I
patron
should
saint
know.
of
I should know this. Damn
yeah,
it.
the
Damn it,
hospital
Chip.
name is St. Anthony's, and the patron saint of recovering lost item is also St. Anthony. So that led me to believe that maybe that was one of the reasons why Tabitha was sent to the real world in the first place. Maybe she was meant to bring someone or something back with her, something that was lost, like Henry. Maybe she was meant to bring Henry back. But I don't know. I mean, it's just a theory. But yeah, but about this, the Randall and Mari scene. This was definitely one of my not one of my favorite scenes of the series, but this was definitely one of my favorite scenes of this episode, at least, because here I feel like we're seeing just a giant cry for help from Randall, but he doesn't really know how to go about asking for help, so he does it in his weird kind of stubborn Randall-y way. But it seems like Mari was very in tune to that, almost like she knew exactly what Randall wanted and needed in this scene was to not be alone. And even when Randall says, it must be nice for you to be able to go to bed next to someone you love every night and not be stuck out there in the bus watching these monsters. And even Mari says, well, hell, stay here, grab your stuff and start staying here. Nobody should have to be alone in this place. I feel
Those
like
two
that
were
was
both
Randall's
possessed,
way.
weren't they?
Yeah.
They were both possessed by these
Yeah.
cicada entities, along with Julie as well. And I do think we're going to see a lot more scenes between these three characters, and them kind of not only sharing their experiences, but maybe even bonding a little bit. But it seemed like Mari knew exactly what Randall needed in this scene. Where yes, he's very hard headed, he's very stubborn. He's
Like a
not the
classic
guy that kind
nurse.
of puts his
She was so in
yeah.
tune.
He doesn't wear his his feelings on his sleeve, but for some reason Mari just knew in this scene that Randall needed some of that human contact, some of that human connection. I don't think there's anything romantic to it, but I do think Mari recognized Randall's need in that moment, and that's why she made that offer to him to say, hey, nobody needs to be alone here, stay here with us, because she saw how hurting Randall was, even though he was trying to hide it.
Yeah, throughout the episode too, where he was like, every time she told him to do something, she's like, it's time to change your dressing. He's like, I'll do it myself. He was exactly like you say. He was that hard-headed, stubborn kind of asshole character.
Yes.
But the thing is, though, even then, even early on, he ultimately obeyed her. He knew that she was doing the better things. He did put up his token resistance in his little asshole way. But the thing is, and then when she gave him, told him how to change his dressings for himself, and he's like, you told me already, or whatever. He was still a dickhead. But notice when she said, hey, why don't you just stay here, we got room, he didn't put up any resistance there. He's like, you serious? He went right to it. But she was
you see the look of relief on his face, almost like that's exactly what he was hoping she would say.
The classic nurse, though. I mean, that was so realistic to me, because any nurse with more than one day of experience had to have had the asshole patient, the somebody who's just, you're finding people on generally what's probably one of the worst days of their life anyway, and not everybody is super pleasant when they're in various like levels of agony. Now, I don't think that he's going to be liking Boyd. I think a lot of what we saw him looking upward in that and whatnot, and even why Boyd said, don't let him know, when he was telling Christy, don't tell him that I was here. Boyd's still feeling guilty, although I don't think he should feel guilty at all, because I don't think he even knew that Randall had fallen down, because he was on the other side of the ambulance dealing with the monster that had the keys. Was it the waitress? Or?
Boyd had zero choice.
Yeah.
It's not like he made a decision.
But that ain't going to stop. That ain't going to stop Randall from being mad.
And it's not going to stop Boyd from feeling bad about it either. Even though Boyd really didn't have a choice in that matter, just knowing Boyd having that military background and him kind of having that honor code of leave no man behind, even though it was kind of an impossibility for him to go back for Randall, he's still going to feel guilty about it.
Yeah. So it's going to be a tough situation, and I don't know how they're going to get through that. And I think it'll have to be Randall that gives on that one, because I mean, sad to say, but Boyd didn't do. I mean, Boyd wasn't at fault for that, even though Randall holds it. So it's just a matter of how long Randall's going to hold it against him. Now, he may never let him go because, if we go with the Randall starting a second faction, and especially with Acosta being kind of like browbeaten by Boyd twice in 2 episodes, Acosta might join in with the Randall faction just because she doesn't feel welcome in the Boyd faction, kind of. So who knows where that's going to go. But yeah, this was you're exactly right. This was another one of those scenes that it seemed like not a whole lot happened, but there was a lot of character development.
So much under the surface. Yeah, so much. And that's why I love, again, I know I probably sound like a broken record now, but that's why I love the kind of mix of what From offers to us. Yes, we get a really healthy dose of the mystery aspect and the intrigue and wondering what this means and that means, but we also get a really healthy dose of just the human element of the show, the human connectivity, the interactions between these characters on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes those scenes are even better than the mystery and monster scenes, and just in my opinion, maybe, because I really enjoy good character development and good motivations behind characters. Once you can suss out a character's motivation, you know about this, Mike, and you know Ravener as well, but Mike, especially you being a writer, once you figure out a character's motivations and you establish a personality for that character, a good writer, at that point, the character starts to write themselves, where you put this character in a situation and you already know how that character is going to react to that situation because you know their motivations, you know how they operate, you know what makes them tick. So I love all these little character development moments that give us kind of deeper insights into how these people think.
Yeah, that's when you know you've got an actual character. That when you can, as the writer, you can put any roadblock you want in front of them, and what you've set up previously is going to just play out naturally. And then if the character is 3-dimensional, there's always room for growth and development, changing minds and all that sort of stuff, and how that's going to affect and you've got all these different characters and how they're going to interact, past histories and everything. If Randall is actually having a sort of a bit of a softening up here, if that isn't like some
little bit,
ruse, I don't know, that's gonna affect everyone that he's interacted with in the past as being an arsehole. So he's interesting.
They've done really well with Randall, even though he is like the classic dickhead character. They've never gone full villain. He's always pulled back from, he's always been cantankerous or kind of a jerk, but he's always also been the guy who does do selfless things, repeatedly throughout the episodes, throughout the season. So he's not. We can't turn him into a full villain. They just haven't made that leap yet, and I don't think they're going to. And I think that's going to be. And I think Randall's a stronger character because of that.
I don't think he's ever been a villain. I think he's been suspicious of authority, and he's questioned why the authority in this place is the way it is. In his mind, Donna and Boyd haven't necessarily demonstrated why they're in charge and making decisions to his satisfaction.
Right.
So I think that's been the main impetus as to why he is the way he is.
Yeah, and we're conditioned to like Donna, we're conditioned to like Boyd because they're the good guys, they're the heroes. And then here's this guy pushing against them, so we're naturally like, wait, why is this guy being mean to our characters, our good guys? But it doesn't necessarily make him a bad guy. You're exactly right. It's all about the authority, and exactly like you said too. They haven't satisfied him as a character that they deserve the authority that everybody else, including the audience, has given them.
And like you said, we're seeing so many things through the eyes of Donna or Boyd, or like you said, some of the more leaders of the community, where sometimes you got to stop and see things through Randall's perspective and some of these other characters' perspective, how they perceive Boyd and Donna. And Randall very much thought that they just were not very forthcoming. He felt that they were maybe holding some information back, that Donna was not maybe telling them everything about these monsters. Like, he was very suspicious right off the rip. So when I see Randall, I don't see, an outright villain. Yes, I see, he's definitely very conflicted, and he's definitely has his moments. But like you said, Ravener, he's very capable of doing the right thing. He's capable of these heroic acts every once in a while. And we've seen him demonstrate that on more than one occasion. But every once in a while, I feel like he just lets his fear win out. And that's a big thing on this show. We see a lot of people are afraid, and it's understandable. Look where they live. But fear always makes humans act irrationally. So that's where I think a lot of Randall's, acting out comes from. It comes from a place of fear. But when he's not having a time to kind of stop and think about things, to stop and be afraid of things, when he's just kind of acting on instinct, we've seen the results. First one to raise his hand to dig out Tabitha, being very kind of heroic too, to kind of throw Boyd the tools and kind of leave himself at the, in danger as the monsters start to surround him. We've seen these small instances where he is very capable of just going off instinct and doing the right thing. But again,
honking the horn in the bus to warn them. Even
honking the horn on the bus.
Right on the tail of him getting face down by Boyd for stealing the goat. He could have just rolled over in bed and said, F these guys, if he was a villain.
Indeed.
But also, how about the stitches? Talk about scar tissue, man. Is that not like baseball mitt kind of stitching, man? That was pretty wild.
Very Joker-esque, as a lot of people were pointing out, that he kind of looks like Heath Ledger's Joker, and he does a bit. And that's one thing I love about the titles of the episodes and how they'll usually have like multiple dual meanings. Like scar tissue, for instance. I feel the episode starts off and we're seeing clear scar tissue, the scar tissue of Jim and Tabitha's marriage, and some of the scars that are there that are kind of related back to the death of Thomas. Then we see the literal physical scar tissue of Randall, and then later on we even see the scar tissue of Victor and how he is scarred from being in this place for so long. So I love the kind of dual meaning that a lot of these titles have within the episode itself. It's not just one thing. It's metaphorical and it's physical in this instance.
Yeah. And the light of day. I was thinking about that with the light of day, and because when the idiom is like, when you see things in the cold light of day, at night something might be a good idea, but when you see it in the light of day, you see all the flaws and all the it's like, oh, wait a minute, I made a mistake here.
Good point. Very good point. I love the dual meaning of a lot of these episode titles for sure. Awesome stuff. What else happened in this episode? All right, I mean, we talked a little bit about the Fatima thing, and again, at this point, I really don't know where they're going with the Fatima thing. It's is she pregnant? Is she not? Clearly, the ultrasound reads that she's not pregnant, but again, there are still some people who think that maybe the ultrasound just didn't pick up what was growing inside of her, which I suppose could be possible. I mean, this is Fromville after all. But at this point, it's kind of heads or tails as to whether or not what they're going to do with Fatima's storyline. Clearly, something is going wrong with her. I mean, from the rotten food to the blood. And I was wondering if we were going to see that escalate, where we see her start with rotten food, then we see her upgrade to dead blood. I was wondering is the next step going to be her taking a chunk out of Ellis in the middle of the night, like she wants something living next? I was wondering if there was going to be a progression to it, but it seems like she went from the blood right back to the rotten food again. It's going to be interesting to see where they go with Fatima's character, where they go with her storyline. But I guess at this point,
I liked her in this episode. And I know you'd mentioned that other people had said maybe there's something. I know the other note that I took from my conversation last night with Frenchie Maple was that there's something in the town messing with the sonogram like it messes with other electronics. Maybe there is something, but it's just being blocked or not being picked up. That one I'm gonna have to wait and see more about, but I loved her early in this one because there was almost like not a direct, but a very if not a repeat, definitely an echo between Tabitha and Jim's fight, and then Ellis and Ellis wanted to comfort Fatima, and he just didn't have the words. And what do you say when you don't have the words? What do you say when someone wants an answer, but you don't have the answers and they don't have the answers? What do you say then? You can't say nothing because then you're saying nothing. But I loved her acting in this. And then when she was like when she found out about the sonogram being available, and then she's like, we can go tomorrow. Like she was just like desperate or childlike and wanting to postpone it. I was like, wow, I didn't like her so much being grouchy on the sonogram table, like keep looking, you made a mistake. But she was very strong in the first scene, I thought, for sure. So I'm still liking Fatima, but man, it's a question I don't have the answer to.
They're doing their best to get us to remember the most important thing about her, which is she is a cannibal. Like she is headed somewhere dark, and she did something super dark that no normal human ever would. So there's something really bad going on here, and that's like underpinning everything, and she's not telling anyone about that.
I know. I think they let up though that they have to fess up, right? They are going to fess up to what she's doing.
Ellis says we need to tell them the truth, but what does that entail? Did she even tell Ellis about the blood that she drank?
blood.
She clearly
No.
Is it going to be rotten food? Yeah.
No, it's the rotten food, which is like 1% of the problem. The 99% is she stuck her hand in a dead body and ate the blood from the wound. That in this world, that is just about like you may as well go out and start running naked in the forest.
Yeah, there's
Like,
not a bigger red flag you can see than that scene. Like, so, yes, something is definitely wrong with her, and it's probably
there's
not
no
going to
coming
end
back
well.
from that.
But no, I
don't think
was
so.
kind of under the same assumption. I don't think she told anybody about the blood, not even Ellis. I don't think anybody knows about her cannibalistic tendencies. I think she kept that to herself. But yeah,
That's the
gonna be
scene
pretty
that
cool
nearly
today.
I was like, I don't know if I can keep watching this show. That is messed up. Like that was like, oh, I can't watch this. So yeah, I think there's something building here. And
thing is,
now, and she always had the babies. Like, oh, that's the problem. There's something with babies, and now there's no baby, and now it's all you. What is wrong with you?
The sooner
And
that
she's gonna
what
break.
is happening to her?
She's going to have to tell it sooner rather than later, though, because that's not something you just let it ride and then like slip into the conversation, a month from now or something.
Oh, by the way, I'm not just craving rotten food. I'm also drinking human blood. Just so you know.
Yeah.
I mean, especially now that the whole ultrasound scene happened, and now that she did see the results that there maybe is no baby inside of her. Now would probably be the good time to just lay everything out on the table. I mean, you got to tell people.
I don't know about that, Jeremy.
Like, sorry, Ellis.
Excommunication doing that.
If she keeps that to herself, it's only going to get worse for her, and it's probably going to start to consume her. Eventually, she's gonna have to come clean at some point, at least to Ellis, or she's screwed. I think this is going to get worse.
It's definitely going to get worse.
It's going to get worse before it gets better. Yeah, I think so.
She's going to see Randall's wound and just start going up and licking his face.
Just go for it. Yeah, vampire style. She's going to smell a little bit of blood and just go on a
What
frenzy.
happens? Because, the people, the monsters transform from normal people. Like, what happens if she already lost a tooth? And they're like, oh, you're malnourished, but she's not pregnant. So maybe the teeth are like, she's going to see some blood and like some fangs are going to pop out or something.
And she's like tacitly
into a new set. Yeah,
and she is like essentially recruiting Boyd and Ellis onto her side without giving them the full information too. So they're going to kind of support her. And not that there was sides drawn, but there was Mari and Christy who are like, look, medically we're looking at this thing. We trust in this equipment. We trust in our knowledge. We trust in how this was performed. There is nothing there to see, and somehow, and Boyd and Ellis, naturally are going to be closer to Fatima just from their relationships. So they're like, well, so they're kind of on Fatima's side, and it'll be their job to try to to reconcile Fatima with the fact that there's nothing there, at the risk of alienating her, or else she's going to have to bring them all on board, all of them, all 5 of them together on board with 100% of the truth.
At the same time.
Yeah.
The fact that she doesn't have the heart to tell anyone tells me she's obviously still like she's still human to a degree.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, like whatever's happening to her, she's still thinking. She
still
probably doesn't
find yourself with these cravings. You're going to be horrified with yourself.
Yeah, exactly. She doesn't have it in her, I don't think, to kill anyone. Like, just say, the vegetables no longer do it for her. Now she starts really craving. Remember, she got really sick because she couldn't eat anything. She really needs human flesh now. She doesn't have it in her to kill someone. Maybe there comes a time where she kind of like essentially pushes someone outside to get killed by the monsters so she can have a snack the next day. Something like that. I could see that happening in the show.
I could see that happening, or I could see, again, I think you're right. I don't think she'll just outright kill somebody, at least in her state that she is now. She still seems like she is Fatima at this point. Whatever's happening to her, it hasn't taken full control yet. Yes, she does have these cravings, but for the most part, she still kind of has her own agency. But I wouldn't be surprised if, the cravings start to get a little bit worse, to the point where maybe at some point, she just kind of loses control. And again, I always kind of expected her to maybe take a little chunk out of Ellis one night, or somebody else, or maybe inadvertently or intentionally lead to someone dying. I mean, seeing her push someone outside would be fucking hilarious. But yeah, I think where she is now, she's definitely not going to kill anybody yet. But if these cravings do persist, I could potentially see her maybe just losing control at one
Well,
point.
you
Maybe not
don't even have to
realizing what
push
she's doing.
someone outside here. You just sort of like surreptitiously open a window in someone's room and not tell them about it, so that they're like
True.
they get killed that night, and you're completely and then she gets to go in later and pay her respects to the body, where now she's like bringing a knife and fork. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I like this one here from Quan Solar as well. Like, maybe it's going to be the complete opposite. What if we're going to see history repeat itself again, where just like Boyd had to kill Abby, will Ellis be forced to have to kill Fatima at some point if she becomes a danger to herself and to everybody else? Like, that could be an interesting kind of, again, we keep seeing these history repeating is a huge theme on the show. We're seeing so many things that have happened in the 1978 timeline are happening now again. So much stuff is reoccurring. So yeah, I mean, I think that could very well be a possibility, Quan, where maybe at some point Ellis is going to have to put her down like Boyd put Abby down. I could very well see that.
Yeah, these things like playing with their food.
Exactly. But I think it'd be very interesting if it was an exact role reversal where Ellis actually had to kill Fatima to save Boyd this time. But who knows? Who knows?
Full circle.
If Fatima kills Ellis is a good, because Ellis is a zero in the series. Ooh, a zero, I think maybe they meant. Ellis, I mean, he's not my favorite character, but I don't know if he's my least favorite either. I feel like he has some interesting moments sometimes, although I have been kind of annoyed at Ellis in season 3, in particular during the town meeting, where, we've talked about this before, but Ellis knows the stress that his father is under. I mean, I always call Boyd, the Greek Titan Atlas. He's holding the world up on his freaking shoulders, for crying out loud. He's trying everything he can to keep everybody alive and keep people safe. And Ellis knows the strain that he was under. So to see Ellis publicly kind of go against him in that meeting in front of everybody, Ellis should have known better. And it's very interesting how it's like actually Kenny who was kind of playing the loyal son role in that scene, where Kenny is actually stepping up and defending Boyd in that town meeting, where Ellis is standing up and acting against him in front of everybody. I just feel like
you
Ellis
never go against the
better.
family.
You don't go against the family. You do not go against the family. Absolutely. Absolutely. Tapestry Monster, Ellis, Fatima, Miranda painted it decades ago. We thought that as well, that Miranda painted this. I originally thought that as well, but the actor who plays Ellis has confirmed in an interview that it was actually him who painted this mural. This mural is meant to be a depiction of Ellis and Fatima as Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Because I thought that as well. I was certain that it was not Ellis who painted this at first. I thought it was maybe Miranda or Eloise or maybe Victor. But the actor who plays Ellis did confirm in an interview that it was him who painted that mural. And again, it's a depiction of him and Fatima as Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And if you look at it closely, you can kind of see the snake, the apple, and everything that's in there. That's what it's meant to be. Because I thought
I'm telling you, I think this is like biblical. I don't know if it's purgatory. I don't know if it's hell. I don't know.
There's a lot of weird biblical references. That's for sure. I mean, and ever since season 1, with the whole lack of Bibles being in the town, with the whole Father Cautry's theory about this whole thing being that about his whole theory as to why there's no Bibles in Fromville is because that they're actually living the 74th book of Revelations. That's actually being written right now as the story of this town. So yeah, there's tons of biblical references that are spread all throughout the show. Now, is it going to be biblical in nature, or is that more of just kind of inspiration that they've thrown into the show? I'm not sure, but you can't deny there is a lot of biblical references throughout the show, for sure.
They do look like demons.
Yeah, I'm just curious if
demonic.
Yeah, they've taken so many influences from so many different mythologies and religions and whatnot. Though I wonder if having biblical stuff is just yet another instance of certain influences, maybe guiding influences. But I'm not quite sold that it's the ultimate explanation kind of for everything. I'm hoping against hope that it isn't. I'm hoping that it isn't any of these one things, whether it's Japanese folklore, Norse, Native American, American folklore, like actual real American folklore kind of stuff, or biblical. I mean, I love that they are taking from all these different things and putting these components into the story one way or another. But I'm just waiting to see. I think I said this last week or whatever. I'm hoping that they're writing their own lore. I'm hoping they're writing their own story, and all these numbers are going to have their the numbers are going to have their significance within the story, independent of anything. Googling angel numbers and stuff isn't going to get you the answer. Trying to match up this with one mythological, like a Icelandic saga, or a story you hear from there, or a story you hear from there. I don't think we're going to find the answer in those things. I hope they're writing their own story for sure. And it looks like they're doing it. I kind of feel like they're doing that, and that might go all the way back to Jade at the bottle tree with Tom. Trust what's natural. Trust what we're writing into this world, and not what we're trying to lay over the top of it to make it fit.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I mean, because we are seeing so many different influences from so many different mythologies all around the world, whether it's Norse mythology, Native American mythology, or even with the bottle trees. Those bottle trees are in cultures all over the world where people hang glass bottles in trees as a method to trap evil spirits. It's still done even today in parts of Africa. So yeah, it's almost like they're taking influence from all of these different mythologies and creating their own kind of melting pot of their own story with influences of all of these different things. But I don't think we can look at any one of these mythologies and get all the answers to From. I don't think that's where it's going to go. I think it's more along the lines, like you mentioned, just influences that they're taking from all of these mythologies to do their own completely new thing with it.
And it worked beautifully with American gods, because they were taking, Greek, they're taking Greek, Roman, all the different ones, Celtic. They had leprechauns, they had all kinds of things in American gods, and Odin was the main guy. So it can be done, and it can be woven beautifully too, just pulling in all these influences.
Yeah.
Well, like in American Gods, the fact that it's set in America is important. I think that's what's happening here too. America has seen a lot of different peoples come into the land, so that's why you would expect all these different symbologies and mythologies being peppered throughout the story. You're seeing American Indians, you're seeing the Japanese, you're seeing the Chinese, you're seeing black, white, everything happening, Christians, so I think that is affecting, just like in American Gods, that's like what was there in the land affected, the mythology. That's probably what's manifesting here in this thing. And again, like I'll come back to, the town is so American. I mean, it is so
very American town.
The clothes that the monsters are wearing are like quintessentially what you think of when you're like, 50s or 60s America or whatever.
Very Americana. So,
yeah.
Indeed. It's just it does seem like that. I don't think we're going to be able to look at any kind of one mythology or biblical text or anything like that and just learn all the answers. But yeah, they're kind of sprinkling little influences from all of these different kind of mythologies, and to create their own story. The dragon in the drawing, the dragon in that drawing means something, I think, and it could be. I mean, we're led to believe that the dragon is actually kind of the representation of the serpent in the Garden of Eden, because again, that painting is meant to represent Ellis and Fatima as Adam and Eve. And if that's the case, then you would think that the dragon is probably a representation of the serpent in the Garden of Eden. But could it mean something else? Maybe. I mean, a lot of people who are listening to that very interesting line in season 1 of Trudy and the Alabaster Dragon, people thought that there's some kind of dragon character out there. I don't think we're going to go that fantasy with it. And that's, again, why I have a tough time believing that we're even going to see this giant spider. I get the feeling they're not going to go full fantasy like that. I think the story's going to remain relatively a little bit more grounded. But yeah. Very quintessential.
Do you think some of those monsters are locked up down in the caves there in like a little prison?
Ooh.
Is that why they have bars? Like,
I think the bars were for the Ankui children to hold them when they were.
were they Ankui children that kind of came out and spooked? Was that
Tabitha?
one of them? An Ankui?
Yes,
Yeah.
that was the first Ankui child we've ever actually seen on the series.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay. So I'm just putting this together. You guys probably already put this together. So they're
totally
like
cool.
being held captive down there. And that's why they keep coming to Tabitha saying, help us, because they're using us on these slabs to do something, I don't know, whatever.
To do something. Some kind of sacrifice.
Going. Yeah.
Some kind of sacrifice.
We're being held down here in purgatory, and you need to rescue us.
You see these little
somehow.
cages back here, like the little sticks that are kind of little cages. Yeah, it seems like that's where the Ankui children were held captive before this ritual experiment or whatever it is happened, I guess, or at least that's kind of how I took it. They were just little cells for these Ankui children.
Okay. Do you guys think this is a current, like a vision of a past time then, of when that ritual was being held?
I think time is it doesn't work in this place in the same way it works anywhere else. It seems to me that it's, you can go back and forward in time, not easily, but it is possible. Like you can go, people seem to be, living in dungeons for decades. And so I think it could all be happening in a sort of different plane at the time, and I don't really know, but that's sort of my feeling of it. That
I mean, the
whatever's happening,
aspect,
whatever's happening, something needs to be done. Someone needs to do something now that will affect.
There's some kind of objective. Yeah. It's not going to be just as simple as finding a way out and they all pile out and they live happily ever after. If they leave without completing what they're supposed to complete, the quote unquote quest, as Ethan refers to it as, they'll probably just get pulled back in just like Tabitha did if they leave.
Yeah, and it might not be like a physical thing. It could just be their spirits trapped or something. And,
maybe, exactly. Maybe. I mean, I doubt these things are actually still alive in any capacity anywhere. It definitely seems like they're a little bit older, these Ankui children. Whenever this ritual or whenever they were actually alive, I get the feeling it was probably a long time ago. But yeah, it might just be as simple as helping these Ankui children move on. Maybe they are kind of stuck in some kind of limbo state where they can't fully move on because of whatever happened to them. But no, time's a very interesting aspect on the show. I wasn't too sure how time was working between Fromville and the real world, but I think we get an interesting hint in season 2. When Mari arrives in Fromville, she says that Christy has been missing for 6 months. And Christy had also been in Fromville for exactly 6 months at that point as well. So I think that was an indication that time moves the exact same way in the real world as it does here in Fromville. But in terms of it being 2 different planes of existence, I think that is the case. And I think Jade is even starting to get onto that with this whole kind of that Camden, Maine and the lighthouse occupy the exact same physical space, just 2 different planes of existence. That's why when Tabitha escaped from the lighthouse, she ended up in Camden, Maine, because that's where the 2 overlap. So I definitely think we're heading into that realm where this is some kind of pocket universe, for lack of a better term. And it's funny, we get that line from Dale super early on in season 1. This is a pocket dimension. And everybody kind of just dismissed it because it came from Dale. But it's looking like his theory is probably the most accurate that we've seen so far.
And it's like a bubble, because you if you go to the edge, you just come back at the other side. So you're trapped within the bubble. And and the time works like that as well. And we saw Jade is there. 1 minute the kids are there, the hole is in the above him. The next minute the kids aren't there and the hole is gone. So it's like they're definitely playing with, you can be in one place at 2 different times.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And Tabby was gone. Yeah, Tabby was in Camden for 3 days, and then that 4th day was when Ethan ran away, when Tien Chen was dragging him back. So
yeah, we get that 3-day time jump inside Fromville to account for the 3 days that Tabitha was unconscious in the hospital.
Yeah.
Oh, and Hollywood Pineapple points out, remember how Jade thought this was an escape room when he first got there?
Yes,
which is another, that's a sort of more modern interpretation of, like what we're talking about. You have to, you're stuck in this thing.
Yep. Yeah, Jade was first. You're absolutely right. Jade was kind of the first to kind of say it, even before Dale mentioned the pocket dimension, because Dale mentions the pocket dimension in episode 6 when the Colony House massacre happens. But Jade mentions this whole escape room thing right in episode 2. So yeah, you guys are right. Jade was actually the first one to kind of bring that idea into the forefront. And in a sense, he's right. This is one kind of fucked up escape room in a sense. And that's the objective, to escape this place and not get pulled back inside. That's why I think it's not just as simple as finding the doorway out. They have to complete whatever they are meant to complete in here before they leave. But no, I mean, they're heading into some interesting things. It feels like we're on the cusp of finally getting some more definitive answers. And the writers and the actors have been promising that all year, that this will be the season where we finally start getting some definitive answers that actually
Yeah,
mean
but the
something.
problem is we're gonna have to hear it from that creepy ass puppet, and that's gonna freak me the hell out. And I'm gonna be like, I don't want this in my memory. You know, he's gonna start telling his story. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, especially in his creepy little puppet voice. I mean, I swear, if we hear this puppet talk and it's the same puppet Christopher voice.
Yep, that's
I'm gonna
lose this.
You get shivers up my spine. I don't want to see it. I don't hear it. Like, throw this thing on.
Fuck me. Yeah, I don't know. I've never been a big fan of Chucky personally. Like I never understand how this small doll, this 1-foot doll, was able to wreak so much havoc when you could just boot this thing through the upright. So I was never a big fan of the whole Chucky thing. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with this whole puppet. Like, do they go full on Chucky with it, or is it one of these things where it just kind of gets a little bit animated and tells a story? I don't know, but it does feel like we are on the cusp of finally getting some kind of big answer. And I do think episode 9 and 10 in particular are going to be when we get something definitive, because obviously the last 2 episodes in the season are a 2-parter. They're called Revelations Part 1 and Revelations Part 2. I think a lot of us can probably glean from that we are going to get some kind of big revelation to end this season off on. And I really think it will be something profound. Whatever the revelation is, it's going to be a definitive answer, something that we have probably wanted to know for a long time. And I think we're going to get a big character death in episode 7.
Yeah.
We hear the showrunner, and I know we've said this ad nauseum as well. The showrunner Jeff Pinker has famously stated that we are going to be losing a few of our most beloved characters in season 3. Now, when you think of beloved characters, you think of fan favorites like a Tien Shen. She was definitely considered a beloved character. But then when you see characters like Nikki and Dale die, they're not exactly beloved characters. So I still think we're going to get at least one more major character death. And looking at the episode synopsis for episode 7 and 8, I think the big character death is going to be coming in this next episode. Episode 7, I think we are going to lose somebody big and somebody definitive. Because if you look at the episode 8 synopsis, it says, "In the wake of a new tragedy." That's how the synopsis starts. So I think
hope it's not Donna. I really like Donna.
Is Mariel? Do you think Mariel's not beloved yet? Huh? She's on the way back.
I don't know if Mariel's beloved. I think it might. I think it's coming down to Christy. I don't know why. Something about Christy. Maybe it's the foreshadowing we get from her telling Kenny over and over again, "If something happens to me, don't worry. You won't be alone. You still have Boyd." Almost like they're setting Christy up to die. So I think Christy could be on the chopping block, but if it's not her, I definitely think we're going to get a major character death in episode 7 based on that synopsis. I could be wrong though. I could.
If it is Christy, at least the actress will be able to not have to live with that terrible haircut that she has now.
Yeah, they'll skin her and use her as like a fur.
Do you remember what she was like back in the first season when she didn't have that?
She was kind of cute, yeah.
She's gorgeous, absolutely.
Gave her the haircut. It's like, oh my God.
But no, let us know in the chat as well, guys. What do you think? Who do you think the next big character death is going to be? Again, if we're listening to Jeff Pinkner, who stated more than one beloved character we're going to lose, who do you guys think is going to be the next beloved character that doesn't make it out of season 3? Again, I think Christy's a good possibility. I hope Donna doesn't go. I think Donna's possible as well. But something about Christy, just those foreshadowing lines we got from her. I'm worried about Christy's longevity.
Yeah, usually, yeah.
What about
usually
Kenny?
they're like usually it's a
Kenny,
character
I
on
swear,
a redemption arc.
They're going to end the entire Lou line.
just kill off the entire family line in one season. I mean, I hope not. I really hope Kenny's safe. Because again, I really liked Kenny in season 3. I wasn't a big fan of Kenny in season 2, but I'm loving him so far this season.
Yeah, he was
but no, that would
immature
be
and
so
erratic in
savage.
number 2. Yeah, I think he's made his arc.
Yeah, I think it's going to be
Maybe.
Ellis. It's going to have something to do with Fatima.
Ooh.
Ooh,
Oh,
Fatima
she wakes
or
up with her
Ellis.
teeth sunk in his neck. She
Maybe.
had late night
Maybe
snack.
something.
You know?
Holy
I think
shit.
Donna,
Try and
her
protect her.
IRL husband, is also out. Yeah, that's true. Donna's, Dale, the character that just got killed off, her, Dale and Donna are actually really married in real life. So wouldn't that be interesting if they kill off the whole married couple all within one season? They kill off Dale and then they kill off Donna next. That would be pretty savage. Mari and Christy both looked great this episode. Not going to lie because of the haircut and all. Yeah, honestly, Mariel looked great in this episode. I thought as well, especially in them jeans. Donna's hug with
I did
Tabitha
notice
felt like
there were a lot of
meaning.
shots of her walking away. I did notice that.
A
And I was
lot of
looking at
shots of her
Randall's
walking
eyes to
away.
see if he sneaked a peek.
Yep. That's true. Yeah, Donna's hug with Tabitha felt like a double meaning, like she herself was saying goodbye. Now that's interesting. That's very interesting. I mean,
Don't
I
get
actually
rid of
did
Donna.
enjoy.
I love Donna. She's one of my favorites.
I really don't want to lose Donna. She's great, but I did enjoy that scene between her and Tabitha at least, where you can see that much like Randall, Donna is one of those characters who kind of she doesn't wear her emotions on her sleeve. She's kind of the badass, the tough guy. She always has to kind of portray that showing of strength. But even in that scene, when Tabitha hugs Donna, you can see it on Donna's face. Like Donna needed that hug so bad. Like it was a really good scene between those two. I thought.
But she's holding on by a thread.
Yeah. And she didn't break down though. I mean, she kept it in and she's like, back to it. But that little crack in her voice or whatever, that was very strong. I was noticing when Donna does like the full on cry or the full on freak out, it's a little less convincing to me. But when she does this one, she was pretty strong. When the person who's still sensitive, still vulnerable, but not out of control, and just like Kenny, she needs to focus on a task. She's stronger when she's focusing on a task, because if she's one of those, she's another one where if you leave her alone with her thoughts, where she has to sit there and ruminate on all the shit that's going on and the people that are lost and what she perceives as her failures as a leader,
she'll lose
it'll drive her crazy. So she like the manual labor. I mean, she might have told people not to help her. I know, like you know how it is when there's actual manual labor, even like wheelbarrowing those bricks down to her. She might have wanted to build it, but she wouldn't have said no if somebody wanted to wheelbarrow those bricks over. But people, people are very, they're very supportive of you doing it when it's manual labor, but they're not really volunteering to do it. But she's one of those people that needs to focus her energy or get her mind on a task. And there'll be a time when she can. Like
Boyd, you see Boyd and Donna are both very good at kind of just compartmentalizing their emotions, putting it aside, dealing with it when they need to deal with it. They know that they have more pressing matters than worrying about their own feelings. So it is very selfless in a way. It's very unhealthy to kind of completely just suppressing your feelings. Sometimes you really need to just confront them every once in a while. But they do. They very much are capable of kind of just pushing it down and just kind of struggling and powering on through it. And I think that's why they're both very effective leaders, both Donna and Boyd. But no, I mean, I don't want to see Donna go either. I'm actually a big fan of Donna. I think she's one of the better actors on the show. Liz Saunders seems to be really cool in real life. She's super interactive with the fans too on Twitter. I don't want to see Donna go at all. Again, I'm worried about Christy, worried about Fatima, worried about Ellis. Those are probably the top 3 on my list that I'm worried about. But I don't know. I mean,
I
Sarah
think
could
you're
go.
right. I think your suspicion is probably right, Jeremy. I think there might be some sort of repeat event of what happened with Boyd and Ellis's mother, but with Fatima.
That would be nuts. Again, imagine if Ellis was put in the position where he has to take out Fatima to save Boyd this time. Like just the crazy history repeating, the cycle kind of never ending at that point.
Ellis's mother was hearing voices.
Was she
So
deliberately hearing voices, or was she just slow, or was she kind of just slowly losing it?
I thought they were talking to her in the same way that they were talking to Sarah, but I might have been remembering.
Yeah, that she has to wake everybody up.
Yeah,
by killing
Yeah,
them.
she
maybe I
kinda
don't
got
know.
it
I
into
can't
her
remember.
head. She got it into her head that this was all one big dream, and that's why she goes on her killing spree. She thinks if she kills
And
everybody, if you die in a dream, you wake up. So I don't know if she was hearing voices or if she was just kind of being manipulated by Fromville itself. And I think we hear that set up pretty early on, where Kenny says, the people that aren't willing to bend here, the people that are too rigid, if you don't learn how to bend, you will break here. And even Ellis says the same thing at the beginning of season 2 when he's worried about Fatima, where he says, it seems like the people that are able to hold on to that one thing inside them that keeps them human, that keeps them grounded, those are the people that end up adapting and surviving here. The people that can't hold on to that end up losing it. I think Abby was just, a victim of the just natural forces inside Fromville. And we hear Victor even say this, that there are bad things here that make people do bad things. I
Yeah.
think Abby was a victim of that.
And that was part of why Ellis was so pissed at Boyd to begin with, because he was kind of picking it up from Abby that something wasn't right, and he was trying to indicate to Boyd, but Boyd was all caught up in the fish and loaves stuff where he was going out and bringing back livestock and stuff, and he was kind of blind to that. He thought it was something he could put off till later, and it wasn't something he could put off till later.
Procrastinate, exactly.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where it was too late at that point, like you said. But no, Abby did have a dream, though. That is right. Yeah, Abby we see that one scene of Abby. She's standing in the street, and she says she's looking down the street of Fromville, and she kind of is recalling of, I thought of this dream I had as a little girl. And that led people to think that Abby might have had dreams of Fromville when she was young, similar to how Tabitha dreamed about this place and how Miranda dreamed about this place. Because we get that one weird scene about Abby talking about some dream that she's remembering when she's looking down the street at Fromville, almost like she's seen this place before in a past dream and doesn't quite remember it. So yeah, there was that. There definitely was that. I personally don't want Jim to die, but the writers are making his character careless as Black Diamond. Yeah, and Jim could be a possibility as well, for sure. And yeah, the woman's voice was Abby. Absolutely, Woodrow. I definitely think that was really Abby's voice that reached out to Sarah at the end of season 1, when Sarah says it was different this time. This time it was a female, and they said, tell Boyd I was wrong about this place. There are worse things out here than the monsters. I think that was Abby conveying to Boyd that she was wrong about her theory that killing people, that dying here will make you wake up in the real world, because she herself died here and now she's trapped here seemingly. So I think that was definitely the legit Abby that reached out to Sarah at the end of season 1.
That's awful. Like, you die, you're still stuck there.
Right. And I think that's what a lot of these voices that Sarah has been hearing are maybe similar as well, that these voices that are manipulating Sarah and reaching out to Sarah in season 1 might have just been past members of the town that died here and are kind of stuck as these disembodied voices here, because we get a very interesting tidbit from them when she's talking to Katri, and the voices state to Sarah, or Sarah conveys to Katri, that the voices said that they're trapped here too. They've been trapped here for a very long time. They've waited a long time for someone who could finally come around that could hear them. Seems like Sarah is the first of her kind, where we have seen history repeats and characters repeat their kind of storylines, whether it's Tabitha kind of mirroring Miranda's storyline, or Jade mirroring Christopher's storyline, or even Boyd and Martin to a certain degree, both going through the trees and everything changing for them. But Sarah's unique. Sarah's one of the only characters who doesn't have a past iteration of herself. She is the first character that showed up here in a very long time that could actually hear these voices. So I think Sarah's a little bit special in terms of there isn't a past Sarah that we can point to and say this was the Sarah of the previous generation. She's it. These voices clearly stated that they have waited a very long time for someone to come around that could hear them, and Sarah finally could. So I don't think there was a past Sarah, but we do see there was a past Jade, whether it was Christopher, and same thing with Miranda and Tabitha. But again, I think Sarah, with her kind of gift being so unique, and I feel like it's been very underutilized since season 1. Like in season 1, she's tapping into all these voices, she's hearing all this crazy shit. Yet in season 2 and season 3, they barely have utilized Sarah's ability. They use it one time in season 2 when Boyd takes her to the ruins and she communicates with the entity. And the entity says to Kenny, it got excited when I touched your arm, and it was laughing at Boyd for bringing it back to the town and freeing it. But other than that, we haven't really seen Sarah use her abilities in a very long time, and I'm hoping we get to a point where she starts being utilized again, because she has a very interesting and deep connection to this place that nobody else has. But
right. Do you think she's
probably all the
worked,
killing?
yeah, has she worked her way back to Beloved yet? Just with her scenes with
I
Victor?
think she's a fan favorite. Yeah, I mean, obviously
Okay.
in the town she's not very well liked, but I think in the audience
she is.
We can see everything that's going on, so we understand that. All right, we know that there's these demonic kind of powers at play here that got into her mind.
Yeah, but if she's not a walking Ouija board anymore, then maybe she's expendable.
She definitely is, like, narratively on the track to sacrifice herself as part of her redemption arc. So it wouldn't surprise me if that happened.
Interesting. So something big in 7. Do you have the 7 trailer? Episode 7 trailer?
I do. Yes, I do have the episode 7 trailer. We can definitely play that. And I also have the episode 7 stills that they have just recently released. All brand new episode 7 stills. So yeah, we can do that. We'll take a look at the episode 7 trailer and then maybe take a look at some of these stills. Although I will have my episode 7 trailer breakdown up on the channel at some point, probably tomorrow. So definitely be on the lookout for that. I'm diving deep into the episode 7 trailer and seeing what we have to look forward to in this next episode. But yes, we do have the trailer right here. And it looks like episode 7 is going to be a pretty Elgen heavy episode just based on the trailer.
Help me, Elgen. I can save all of you. I can help you go back home. This wasn't just a random nightmare. This was a dream I had over and over.
Can we maybe figure out what we're gonna do now?
I don't know what we're gonna do. I don't know what's wrong.
Then figure it out!
Do you feel it?
We should go.
Oh, I want to check it.
Hey, stop.
You feel it?
Oof, man. Yeah, again, it doesn't show you a whole lot, but it definitely shows you that Elgen he's on the trail. He is definitely on the trail of searching for whatever this kimono creature is telling him, whatever he's seeing in these photos. He is definitely on the trail of something. So I'm glad that they're giving him a proper storyline this season. I feel like they tried to give him a proper storyline in season 2, but it really kind of was anticlimactic at the end when he finally remembered his dream. And it was just the same old nursery rhyme that we had already heard. It wasn't really a reveal. But this season, they're giving him a proper storyline, and I'm loving where his character is going. And he's really being utilized well this season, I feel. So, yeah, what do you think's going on with Elgen? I mean, do you think he's going to learn something more definitive about this kimono creature? Why is he going down into this root cellar? What is up with this root cellar that seems to be the epicenter of so much supernatural shit? Whether it's
Jade, that's where Victor hid as a child, didn't he?
That's where Victor hid as a child. That's where Jade saw his very first vision of the symbol. That's also where Boyd saw the ballerina pop out of. And now Elgin's going down here, seemingly related to maybe this kimono creature. What is up with this root cellar? And this is actually where Julie popped out when she went through her faraway tree in season 1. When her and Victor were escaping Colony House during the Colony House massacre, the boy in white led Victor and Sarah into a faraway tree. And this is where led Victor and Julie, to a faraway tree. And this is where Julie's destination led her. She got spit out right into this little root cellar. So what is up with this root cellar being, a huge epicenter into so many of these supernatural occurrences? What is it about this root cellar that's so special, I wonder?
Yeah, and a little kind of far outside of the town for a root cellar, too. You'd think it would be near a home or a house.
Very far from Colony House. Yeah, it's almost like a football field away from.
What is a root cellar? We don't have these here. What is
a hole in the ground? Basically, the temperature is naturally cooler underground, so you'd put potatoes and anything tubers just to keep things cool for like wintertime storage and whatnot, and even summertime storage. It's like naturally cooler underground, like pre refrigeration. Cold storage kind of.
Yeah.
Like
but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I think this is going to be a fun episode. And again, I think we're going to get the next big character death, whatever character it's going to be, just based off those synopsis. I think we're going to get a big death in episode 7 next week. So be prepared, guys. We might lose somebody big in the next episode of From. But who will it be?
With this scene, man, I thought for sure that, I mean, I just naturally thought it was out at Cannibal Village, not the same one that Julie popped out of, but I guess it probably is. And I mean, I can't imagine they'll bother doing multiple root cellars. Although it did look quite long, like almost like a hallway kind of thing, when with a door inside of it too. That like Elgen opened a door inside of it, so there's almost like 2 rooms within this one root cellar.
Yeah, I don't remember it being that long, but I could just be.
There are, because even when Jade has his vision of being down in that root cellar, he has to actually open that door before he actually sees the person that is crushed by the boulder.
Holy shit. What the fuck?
Great clip, man. Wow, it's awesome that you had that queued up. That was perfect.
Scared the crap out of me.
Very fortuitous, yes.
And that was
it's interesting. You see him, he opens that door in the back, and then it's almost like there's a closet behind the door. And I almost wonder if that is maybe like a predestination for a faraway tree, because that's exactly where Julie pops out when she enters her tree. So yeah, it's what is up with this root cellar, and why is it at the heart of so many of these weird occurrences?
First and foremost, it's underground. Like clearly things underground has a meaning here. So that's my kind of first thinking.
Part of me always thought that they were either in this root cellar or maybe in Father Cautry's basement. They would maybe find some kind of hidden passageway that maybe connects to the tunnels underground.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen anything like that yet, unfortunately. But no, I mean, I'm looking forward to this episode. I think, like you said earlier, Raven, or I think it was you, Mike. Episode 6, it had some really good scenes, but it definitely was one of those episodes where it seemed like it was setting some things up for the next few episodes. And I really think we're going to get some good payoff in these last 4. I get the feeling that they're saving all of the really good and juicy stuff for these last 3 or 4 episodes. So I'm expecting something pretty big to happen in episode 7. And of course, we have Tabitha, Jade, and Ethan, and even Jim tagging along. Or it looks like Tabitha, Jade, and Ethan head to Cannibal Village, and they run into Jim, because Jim is actually at Cannibal Village right now getting the rest of the food. So it seems like they meet him on the way. But at least Tabitha is returning back to these rocks because she wants to see them for herself, which you called earlier, Ravener, as well. That was kind of direct setup for Tabitha to go to these rocks in episode 7. It looks like we're going to get that. But I guess we'll have to wait and see what do they see when they're there. Will they see something that gives them some kind of hint or answer?
Yeah. As a very quick aside, when I was younger, I had a recurring nightmare as well of a house. Moved to a new place I'd never been before and found the house. Never been here before. Wow. And I was like riding my bike along the road, and I stopped. I would have stood there for about half an hour, just like jaw on the ground. I couldn't believe it. I was terrified, stuck straight. So I feel like I'm going to have a kind of personal frightened moment as Tabitha goes back to her childhood nightmare, because I've friggin' lived it. Thankfully, though, nothing as bad as what's happening to these guys. I just kept on riding afterwards.
Watch out for that house. Watch out for that house. Watch out for them trees in the road as well. That's not a good sign.
Imagine that. I was riding my bike and there's a tree falling down in front of me. Jump right over it.
But no, I'm looking forward to this one. I think it's going to be good. And we're seeing some weird new totems here. This totem looks totally different from all of the other totems we've seen. We got this old weird little bike thing here. I can't wait to see what this episode is going to bring. I think we're going to get some pretty good stuff in episode 7. I'm thinking it's going to be a good one. Yeah. And historically, when you look at the format of From, every single season, every time you get to either episode 6 or 7, something massive happens. In season 1, we have the death of Father Cautry and the Colony House massacre that takes place in episode 7. In season 2, when we get to episode 6, we have the death of Smiley, the death of the first monster. So every season we have gotten something pretty big right around the episode 6-7 mark. So I think episode 7 is going to be a big episode, just based on the format they've used prior.
Yeah, and it's a great format for laying out a 10-episode season. You get something big in 7. 8 is everybody recovering and regrouping, reacting to what happened, and then 9 and 10 is just full tilt. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's perfectly setting us up for a nice little chaotic episode 7 where we get a pretty low point. And again, I think we're going to lose another character in episode 7 just based off the episode 8 synopsis. And then, yes, episode 8 will be another one of those episodes where we kind of catch our breath. We slow down a little bit and set up the last 2 episodes, being 9 and 10, being Revelations Part 1 and 2, where we get something massive in those final 2. I think you're 100% right. That is how the season is going to play out, probably. And I can't freaking wait.
Yeah.
I mean, it sucks that the season has been freaking whipping by. I mean, I know I say this all the time, but it legit feels like it was just like a week.
It always,
or 2 ago.
yeah, they always seem like they go for 20 minutes, these episodes.
So the episodes go by so fast, and the whole season has been whipping by so fast. Like, these weeks have been just flying by. I can't believe we're already 6 weeks into the show. It really feels like we just started it a week or 2 ago. But I've been enjoying it so far. I definitely think this has been maybe their strongest season yet. I mean, it's going to depend on the ending, how they choose to drive this season home, what they choose to reveal, and what they choose to set up for season 4 will be very telling. But this very well could be a season that tops season 1. And that's high regards for me, because I put season 1 of From among some of my best series of television I've ever seen. But this season so far is easily matching it, if not maybe topping it, depending on how it ends. But I cannot wait for episode 7. But one thing we like to do here before we close things down is I always like to ask everybody on the panel and in the chat, what was your rating for episode 6? With episode 6, from 1 being horrible and 10 being perfect, where would you guys in the chat and on the panel, where would you rate episode 6 as a whole from 1 to 10? Ravener, what do you got?
Well, I tend to talk myself into going up, as you know, everybody's heard me say this before. I start lower and tend to go higher. This one, I think I'm just going to call it, it was almost like a necessary, but it didn't knock my socks off. It took me a few episodes. 6 was the same way. It took me a few watches to really get into it. And there were a few times when I started it and didn't maintain my attention, because there was it was talky. There was a lot of talk, and it was necessary. You know, it was a lot of character progression. But for this one, it just didn't blow my socks off. So I'm going to go with just a good solid 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
You were going to say a bit lower than that.
Yeah, 7's a solid score. I mean, I think that is not a bad score. It's still a passing grade. Hell, 70 is like a C in school. So
yeah, the acting was really solid. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot for me to mark off, you know, to say, oh, this offended me, this made me mad, therefore, or you know, I hated this aspect or that aspect. Probably Tabitha was the weakest link in this episode, but everybody else is pretty strong. Even you know, and they developed Mariel, they developed Randall, they you know, Boyd almost the same way we were talking about Clara, how she makes token appearances where she kind of just says something and moves the thing along. Boyd was almost that character in this one. He didn't do a whole heck of a lot, but he did move things along.
Not only this episode, it seems like the last 2 episodes, Boyd's role has been very minimal in the last 2 episodes. And it's, I mean, you get it, you got a lot of characters, you need to make some room for some of these other storylines. But yeah, Boyd's character hasn't really done much in these last 2 episodes. I mean, he famously set up the whole storyline early on where he wanted to trap a monster. And that whole storyline has been on pause for like the last 3 or 4 episodes. So I hope they return to that before the season ends. Boyd attempting to try and trap one of these monsters. But no, 7 is a solid score. But what about you, Mike? Where do you put episode 6 on a score from 1 to 10?
I agree with everything Raven has said, but I'm going to sit it at a 6. And I'm going to say that, it's, you know, just in... I'm glad it's in there as part of the whole season. I didn't have a problem with it or anything. It's just, you know, if I'm going to be honest and judge it up against some of the best episodes that we've seen in the series, you know, I can think of a lot that are a lot more impactful and really had me either scratching my head or watching the show through my hands, or shivers down my spine, sort of stuff. And yeah, I think a lot of the cool revelations, I'm happy that we're starting to see them, but I feel like it's the setup. We're gonna see them. We're gonna see them in the last, what is it, 3 episodes? And I think that's gonna be more impactful than just hearing about it. Oh, you had these crazy recurring nightmares. Okay, well, let's see it now. Let's see you go back and maybe have see a nightmare, just like Jade did when he always goes and he sees people, I don't know, with things in their eyes or whatever, so
okay.
A solid 6. I don't disagree with the 7, but yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, it seems like the chat has been very spread out. We've got everything from 6, 7s, 8s, and 9s. Even got a 9.7 from our good pal. Don't even worry about it. For me, I would give this episode a solid 8. I enjoyed it personally. I like these kind of slower episodes where they do kind of give us some really good character developing moments where they set up some very interesting things to play out over the next few episodes. I really enjoy these episodes sometimes just as much as I do the high intensity episodes like 1 and 2 and episode 4. So yeah, I would give this episode a solid 8. And I enjoyed it. I thought this was a really good one. We got some really just phenomenal acting from some really good characters in this episode. Victor and Henry, their scenes are always so fun to watch. And the Mari and Randall scene was a huge surprise. I had no idea I was going to enjoy a Mari and Randall scene as much as I did. So yeah, I would give this one a solid, respectable 8 out of 10. Really enjoyed it. Looking forward to these final 4 episodes and see how this season is going to end up and what exactly they have in store of us, and who is going to be on the chopping block in episode 7. Because again, I get the feeling we are going to get a character death in episode 7 just based off the descriptions for the episode 8 synopsis saying in the wake of another tragedy. So I think we have a big tragedy coming in episode 7, maybe another big character death. I cannot wait to see it. But yes, solid 8 for me for episode 6. I definitely enjoyed it. And looking forward to seeing the rest of the season. And there we got a 9.5 as well. Wow, awesome. Yeah,
it's an interesting thing when you do weekly releases as opposed to the Netflix binge, because I do agree that for this show, the weekly releases is far superior because you need time to digest and dissect and think about these things. If you were just streaming through these episodes, I feel like you would miss
so much.
70% of what the show is trying to tell you. And also the fun of it is the interaction, the theory. That's the fun part of it as well. It's a big part of it. But at the same time, then you can't have a show that every single episode is the most crazy. Every episode is scarier than the next. Then that's not a story. That's just a friggin' ghost ride. There has to be slower moments where they're setting things up, and okay, yeah. So it's not a problem. I totally appreciate episodes like this. I think when after the season is out and you can watch it all again, like it'll all feel as just part of one big long episode anyway.
Yeah, no, I love the way that they're formatting these episodes, where we're getting some really high intensity episodes for like maybe 1 or 2 in a row, and then the next episode that follows it is an episode like this, where it's a little bit slower, it's a little bit more kind of character driven, setting some things up to come. So yeah, I love how they're formatting their seasons, because like you said, you can't have the way episode 1 was, where it was just so high in intensity. You can't have every single episode be like that, because at one point the audience starts to become desensitized to it. You want these big and shocking moments to be few and far between. That way, when they do come around, they register as shocking. If you're seeing big character deaths in every single episode, you're going to become desensitized to it, or it's not going to mean as much anymore. So I love the way they're formatting these things, where they're choosing to go very intense in a few moments, and also pulling back the reins and setting some things up in some other episodes. So I love the mix we're getting of both. And cannot wait to see episode 7 and where this goes. And yes, I agree. The weekly is without a doubt the way to go for a show like this. Like you said, Mike, if you were to binge watch this show, you would miss so much stuff just binging through these episodes. It's very beneficial to watch each one of these episodes at least 2 times, maybe even 3 times, to really kind of get the full extent of what this episode is trying to tell you. What are the writers trying to tell you? What is the director trying to tell you? So yeah, if this show got released all at once, I don't think it would have become anywhere near as popular as it is right now. And having a 10-week format, that is 10 straight weeks of this show being in the public zeitgeist. Whereas when you release all episodes at once, even for really popular shows like a Stranger Things, people only talk about those shows for like a month, a few weeks to a month at most, and then it's gone. Nobody's even talking about it anymore because everybody's binged through it. But like this, you have 10 straight weeks of nothing but From discussions, and that helps grow the fandom. It keeps it, again, in the public zeitgeist better. So yeah, the weekly release model is always going to be superior for every show, in my opinion, but especially shows like this. So yes, bring it on. Keep showing us what you guys have to offer. Cannot wait to see what episode 7 is going to bring. I see Jade's got his trusty notebook when he goes out to Cannibal Village. Cannot wait to see what he uncovers. And yeah, looking like it is going to have a pretty intense last few episodes to end this season off. I can't wait to get to 9 and 10, Revelations Part 1 and 2. I genuinely, I think we're all expecting to get something.
I can't wait to see some revelations.
See some revelations, indeed. But again, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. That is going to do it for our episode 6 live discussion. And of course, I will be live a little bit later on this week, probably diving into some episode 7 predictions as well. But also keep an eye out for my episode 7 trailer breakdown. I'm working on that right now. I'll have it up on the channel probably tomorrow. And definitely I have some pretty interesting things where I think episode 7 is going and beyond, and that'll all be in the video. So definitely check that out when it drops. But again, I want to give a huge thank you to everybody for joining us tonight, and my awesome co-host for braving these storms, braving the Fromville shores with me this evening, and cannot wait to see what the rest of this season brings. But again, thank you everybody for being so supportive this year. You guys have been just tremendous with the support you guys have shown the channel and the videos. It's crazy. I never would have expected this level of support. So big thank you to each and every one of you. And until next time, stay safe out there, guys, in this crazy Fromville world. Keep those tinfoil hats on, folks. Don't be afraid to dive into that rabbit hole, and we will see you on the next one.